Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Trak Racer TCR Cup by MotorMotion E-Series, and we are here for round 5 of the season. 2 races ago after this race for a 7-race season, and we're really looking forward to this race. Road Atlanta is where we're at tonight at the Michelin Raceway for a fantastic blitzing series between Div 1 and Div 2 in a team's title that is heating up quite significantly. We're going for a 2.5-mile, 4-kilometer road course located just north of Braselton, Georgia in the United States. Right off the back of round 4, which was located at Catalunya. A fantastic race that we had there, and we're looking forward to another fantastic race here today. 31 laps around this amazing track in the Audi TT 2016 Cups. My name is George Cooke, and in the commentary box joining with me tonight is, of course, Nick Pautasso for an amazing series. So, Nick, we're going to be looking forward to a great race tonight.
Absolutely. Good evening, George. Thanks for the warm introduction, and thank you for having me in the commentary box. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the MotorMotion E-Series Trak Racer TCR Cup. It is absolutely fantastic to be here. One of my favorite tracks since it's been included on the platform of Gran Turismo 7. It's been a huge delight to finally see Road Atlanta, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, I must add, to the series in both MotorMotion E-Series TCR Cup, and as well, you know, in any forms of racing. Every motorsport fan knows this track very well. It's a very easy track. It looks very easy, but there are some very technical corners, especially in that first sector.
That's absolutely right. I'm looking forward to seeing how the cars navigate it today. There's a mix of requirements for the Audi TT cars, of course, and we know that they are very, very bad on their front tires, so it'll create a bit of a challenge, I believe, in the first half of the course, where we do see the S's through turns 1 through to 7, and then up the back straight, a very long back straight, in fact, 1.2 kilometers through turns 8, 9, and into the final chicane, turn 10, 11, and 12, and then down onto the pit straight. A short pit stop here today, so 31 laps. The hard tires are required, so it's going to be interesting to see exactly what strategy calls are going to be made. Last time out at Catalunya, we did see a lot of tires being chucked out the window after 1 lap, Nick, so we'll see what happens this week. I think there'll be a similar thing happening with the strategy.
Well, the strategy that worked out last time out was the 1 lap on the hard tires, and then the rest of the stint was on the soft tires, which was well delved into and well executed by Andrew Scott in Ando 787 for the Cooke driver development team. He's done a fantastic job, so maybe watch out for him, and maybe watch out for other drivers to run a similar tactic that he ran at Catalunya. But it is also known to be a very tricky pit entry. As soon as you go up the rise through 10B, it's really hard. It's going to be very blind. It's a very blind corner going up that hill, going up the crescent. And if you are a car behind, you have to be really careful for when a car dives into the pit lane, because even the pit lane entry itself has always caught out so many drivers. No matter what racing you do around here, it does catch out drivers, and it really spooks them in a way. So it's going to be one interesting to see how the drivers execute the pit entry and even the exit as well. You are coming out of the pit lane when the cars are really going full speed at the exit of turn 1. But turn 1 is going to be a critical corner on that opening lap, as we're about to go. As we go back to what was all the action at Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. We saw some awesome racing back there, and we go to the team's title, where we have the Cooke driver development team in both Andrew Scott and Mick Hill still leading the way very comfortably on 380 points. And then Track Stars racing right behind with Tyler Lansdale and Ricky Rick in second place, and not far behind CP Motorsports in Dean Vandersen and Stephen Harrison, where Dean is actually now back in the car in car 132, as we saw with Josh Green putting in a fantastic super sub moment, putting back a super sub effort to bring that car into P2 at Catalunya. And then not too far behind is Red Sick Racing with PJ McKenzie and Ben Churchill, who put on a very good job, which both drivers put on a fantastic drive last time out at Catalunya, both finishing well inside that top 5.
Yeah, it's been an interesting fight here for the sort of. I think we've got Cooke driver development sort of running away with things at the top a little bit. We'll see if their dominance continues today. Between the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth position, though, it's really all to play for. Only 20 points separating them. We can't actually rule out Robo Sport Racing as well. So all those teams, and actually Mad Turtle Racing, now that I take a closer look at it, separated total, I think, by 46.6, if my math is maybe correct there, probably isn't, points. So, it's all to play for in these last few rounds. And yeah, I think, the Diffusion Race Engineering guys, obviously I'm a bit of a fan of the Kiwi teams. I'm hoping that they can really put in some good drives in the next couple of races. And I think Road Atlanta's, one of those tracks that suits some drivers and doesn't suit others. The turn one, as you mentioned, very, very critical to get that absolutely spot on. And if you can save tires throughout the S's, that's really going to help you later on in this race. Extending the tire life is going to become absolutely critical around this track for 31 laps as well. So, they're short laps, admittedly. I think we're probably looking at 1 minute 20-ish lap time. We'll see, as obviously, when we get out on track. So we're looking at maybe a 30 or 40-minute race in total around here. But yeah, the team's title certainly staying heated up overall, and the performances from the Div 1 driver and Div 2 driver at Cooke Development driving is just absolutely been blowing us away with the skill that they've been showing and the strategy they've been executing. So we'll take now a quick look at the current standings in Division 1. Of course, we'll be going to Division 1 first in this broadcast today, and then once we've taken a little 10-minute break after that, we will jump into the Division 2 race. And yeah, looking forward to this very much here. So Andrew Scott is, of course, our leader in Division 1, 227 points. And right at the top of the tables there, joining him is going to be Dean van der Zant and Tyler Lansell. So the CP Motorsports driver and the Track Stars racer driver, both still in contention for a fantastic finish here in the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Dean actually missing the last round, he still actually was able to hold on to P2 after missing Catalunya. So it shows the pace that van der Zant has got over his other competitors in both Lansdale and even Foster. But the man that's really bringing shock waves throughout the shock through the system here in Division 1 is Scott Taylor, the privateer driver in car 37. He's come from out of nowhere over these last few rounds, and he's done a fantastic job putting that car 5th overall. And even you've got to give the guys, you've got to give a few, I would say you have to get a few honourable mentions, especially for Peter McKenzie in P7 for Road Sick Racing. After that last round at Catalunya, he's well right up into contention to fight Matthew Johnson, who is occupying 6th place with the Juice Motorsports Audi TT. So it's a great, fantastic battle. But I think Andrew Scott's looking at this round and looking at this race thinking, well, I need to, if I can execute another brilliant round that I've been doing over the last 4 rounds, I can definitely put one hand on that trophy.
Yeah, that's another day, another dollar for Andrew Scott, as we've mentioned before in the stream. But I absolutely couldn't agree more that there's been some fantastic drives throughout the Division 1 standings, with some real standouts as well. And of course, GLR Scott Taylor, coming out of the woodwork as well as Robert Foster. So some really strong drives from them in the Audi TT Cup car. The car is not easy to drive, so you've got to give the hats off. When you get a performance like that, you've really got to show it off. And those guys have been showing they've got the stuff, both in driver skill and talent, and also mentally to handle these cars. The drop-off in tires that you do see on the fronts makes a big impact to how you have to drive the car throughout the race. And yeah, it's been impressive to watch both the Div 1 and Div 2 guys wrestle and wrangle with these Audi TT cars here in the Trak Racer TCR Cup. So, Nick, I think it's time for us to go and get onto the qualifying grid, because I hear that qualifying has finished now. So our broadcast engineers in the background have got the results waiting for us right now.
Well, let's head down to the track and let's have a look to see who's qualified on pole position for round 5 for season 1 of the Trak Racer TCR Cup. Here are our results. And yet again, putting his car up the front is Robert Foster for Mad Turtle Racing. The man that is leading the way in the pole positions, unfortunately, hasn't been able to register a victory yet, because that's where the money comes from for getting a victory in your team. So Foster leads the way on pole position. Hopefully, he might be able to stop the run of Andrew Scott, who's starting alongside him in position 2. And then we see Ian Ward for RoboSport Racing. That's actually the highest we've actually seen Ian Ward for RoboSport, up into 3rd place. RoboSport, again, is on the comeback a little bit with Nick Pearce and both Sean Parker getting back-to-back victories in Division 2. So this could potentially spark a light up in RoboSport Racing Camp with Ward in 3rd. And then we have Tyler Lansdale sitting in 4th place. And then right behind there, the man, the privateer, the man that is shaking a few heads in the positive minds. It is Scott Taylor in 5th place, and then Dean Vanderzeer making his return after missing 1 round at Catalunya is down in 6th place. Aidan Sampson for Diffusion Race Engineering in 7th, and then we have Naki Nax in 8th place for Ned Racing. And down in 9th place again, he's another super sub. He always keeps putting on those super sub performances, but Glenn Mead is back in Division 1. He's back racing in 9th place as he starts in 9th place, whilst we have Mark Pacheco, the Bundaberg Red Racing driver, in 10th place, rounding up the top 10. And just only missing out by a 10th was Peter McKenzie for Road Sick Racing in 11th place, and then Kane Patton down in 12th place. So for him, he's actually not down towards the rear of the field. He's actually moved up a couple of positions on row number 6. And then in 13th place, the Hankook sponsored livery Audi TT is Nick Gow in 13th place. Shane Addard for Strike Race Tech. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he's got the right livery and the right number next to his name as we go to the race coverage very shortly, ending up in 14th place, and then down the rear of the field for the Intercontinental Esports racing team is Kevin Cooper in ISA Renegade down in 15th and last place, while our 16th place driver was a no-show. Or actually, we have 15 drivers on the grid with the 16th, of course, for your lovely and fellow commentators in here tonight.
That's absolutely right. And I am hearing that the cars are now out on the grid, so we will be jumping very shortly over to the live race coverage from on track at the Michelin Road Atlanta Circuitway. And yes, you are tuning in now to the Division 1 of the TCR Trak Racer Cup, brought to you by MotorMotion E-Series. And here we go. I hear the lights are going out as we speak, so let's jump over to it now. And we've got 2 lights, we've got 3 lights, we've got 4 lights, we've got 5 lights. The revs go up, and away we go for round 5 of the Trak Racer TCR Cup. And I just noticed that we've got a little bit of a lack of sound there, but a good start there from Foster in 1st place. Andrew Scott under pressure from Ward already. Ward looks up the inside on turn 1, but decides against it. Andrew Scott getting beaten out from 2nd place into 3rd with Tyler Lansdale right behind them, looking eager as they go through turn 1 for the first time.
Absolutely. It's a very good start here for Robert Foster. He's pulling a few car lanes over Ward, who almost went for an ambitious move. We know Ward to be a very competitive driver at the beginning of the race. He picks up a 1.5 second penalty after cutting a turn, I believe it was turn 2, as he cut too much of that chicane there. And he's got a very strong start, but that 1.5 second penalty is going to feel like 3 seconds once he burns it all off. With Andrew Scott right behind in 3rd place, Tyler Lansdale in 4th, and then we have Dean Vanderzeer making his return back onto the grid in 5th place. GLR Scotty in Scott Taylor dropped down a position in 6th place, so the 2 boys up in 5th and 6th, a bit of a switcheroo in positions. But as we see down there in 7th place, Pacheco's actually done a fantastic job. He's actually gained 3 positions off the start line, and he's put himself in a really good position, car 773, but Nax is right next to him. He's going to go looking for an inside move. No, he actually backed out of that backed out of it because he had to keep his eye out on Ward, who was serving that 1.5 second penalty. So losing time there to, I believe it was Pacheco, but he's down back into 7th place as their drivers. We see some drivers in the pit lane, and the first of the drivers is Scott Taylor, the privateer, who'll be getting rid of those hard tyres. He's completed that compulsory lap here. There's a bit of a switcheroo between the 2 drivers up ahead between Ward and Nax. This is some fantastic racing. Only on the 2nd lap here, Ward gives way to Nax. Some great racing on that 2nd lap, but it is very tricky to be making side-by-side moves in this first sector.
Absolutely. What a lap we've had. And yeah, as we suspected, some of the drivers who started on the hard tire have decided to jump into the pits and immediately get rid of it, favoring a different tire to start. We've had Ward actually start on the medium tire, so he's looking to run maybe a little bit longer into this race with the medium tire. I think a lot of people will be probably choosing the soft tire at the end of the day because it is a lot faster on track, especially on corner exit where you get most of the grip, especially onto the long back straight, 1.3 kilometers of course, so you want to be taking advantage of that slipstream. So for everybody who's coming in to the pits early, they're going to have to hope that there's another driver pretty close to them so they don't lose out on that slipstream advantage down the long straight. And seeing some purple times go already as Ward makes another move up the inside onto the 66 car. So these two having a fantastic battle at the start. Of course, Ward having to serve that 1.5 second penalty. It's not done him any favors, and now having to fight.
Oh, he's getting really squeezed on the inside at turn 11, but he's going to put the nose right on the inside. They're still going side by side onto the pit straight, but Ward executes that perfectly. And as we were talking about the early starts of the race, we did see Scott now take the lead off Foster, who's up in second place, and Mark Pacheco in third place. He's actually flying through the field from 10th to 3rd in the opening 3 laps. That's an outstanding start by the Bundaberg Red Racer driver, who was at the opening 3 rounds, or 2 rounds. He was the privateer driver signed up by Mitch Collin because he wanted to get that Bundaberg team up into contention of scoring team points. Signed Pacheco, and he's done a fantastic job getting that car up into P3 on the soft tires. Probably compared to what Lancer might be on, he might be running on the medium tires or maybe on the hards. We'll have to find out very shortly. But Pacheco really coming out of the boom gate and really putting on a show here on those soft tires.
Yeah, I think the softs is a smart choice because you're going to end up with a pretty significant advantage off the line, and track position can be worthwhile here, especially through the first part of the race, or of the circuit, I should say, with the S's going to give you a huge advantage on the softs. We do see, I think that was Pacheco, he's not peeling off into the pit lane at all. It's just the camera angle playing tricks with my mind, and he set a fantastic time there, 25.5 I think it was, or it might have been this timing screen's showing us something slightly different. Oh, he's run wide. Has Pacheco's, oh, he's into the wall. Oh no, okay, he's got huge engine damage there. He's been reset onto track and he's falling further and further down the field as the rest of the field comes past. And Pacheco's race, he's gone from 0 to hero and unfortunately might have gone straight back to 0. What an unfortunate start for him. And we will continue to bring you the coverage here because the rest of the field looks like they're still on the hard tires. Andrew Scott decided to start on the racing softs at the moment, so he'll be looking to go as fast as possible. Does explain why he was able to get past Foster, who's fallen down to second place, but using the hard tires for a few more laps than a lot of the rest of the field. So from the rear of the field, it is Bruce the Shark. He switched onto the soft tires, and Dean van der Zaan in the 132 car right in front of him, also on the soft tire, and in 13th position for Diffusion Race Engineering on the soft tires as well. It is Aiden Sampson. Ahead of them, it is Scott Taylor, formerly a privateer. I think he's still privateer at this league, in fact, actually. The 37 car doing well, also switching early onto the racing softs and looking to take them long into this race. The hard tires are mandatory, of course, so they've been chucked out by several of the competitors down the field, and it'll be very interesting to see what they can do later in this race as the field starts to get closer and closer. But that is Scotty on Pacheco there, and Pacheco is hammering. He's just completely hemorrhaging with this damage on his engine.
We have to remember that he had a really massive off on that last lap, so he's popped on the hazard lights and just said, you know what, I'm out of contention, and that's really compromised the Bundaberg Red Racer driver. Unfortunately, he was doing so well up into P3. It was on the softs as well. We have to remind our viewers, he was on the soft tires and charging through the field. But unfortunately for him, he just a bit of a mistake there into turn 1, and he went a little bit too deep, went a little bit too wide, and that's game over for the Bundaberg Red Racer driver, and he's down in the pit lane.
Yeah, I do wonder if he put a wheel on the grass on the on the entry of turn 1, because that can really destabilize the car. But he just seemed to fly off the track, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah. Like I'd only just caught the end of it, and apparently my microphone wasn't working at the time there as I was about to call it. But yeah, he just looked like he was just had no control whatsoever. And I would say like I've done that plenty of times, and I'm sure everyone else has done it plenty of times. But yeah, once you go a little bit too deep, there is no point of return bringing that car back around the circuit. But we see a few drivers down here. We see Patton actually making up a few positions up into 8th place, starting 12th, and even with Shane Addard up into 7th place after starting in 14th. So this would have definitely helped these boys move up the order, but obviously because a few of the drivers behind have actually made their pit stops. So the first of the pit stoppers, I believe, was GLR Scotty, and I think he is behind Vanderson, who got off those hard tires and is on those soft tires. But I think Ando as well on the soft tires, Foster on the harder compound, as well as Lansdale. And then again, interesting to see Ward is on those medium tires, and I have a feeling it might be the strategy that because he is on the racing controller, he's probably gone for a bit of a harder strategy because he wants to save those tires and he doesn't want to have tires falling off the cliff where you see a couple of soft runners might be able to go an extra lap or two.
That's correct, and unfortunately for Ward, he's picked up yet another penalty. It's 2.5 seconds this time, just as he's closing in with Nax. Once again, these two battling it out. Currently for 4th position overall, but there's the penalty being served by the 77 car. That's going to put this pack probably just ahead of him. Nick Gow goes through. Will Shane Attard be able to make it through as well? He's looking up the inside, and whoa, they nearly had contact as well. And through goes Attard on Ward. So more contact. Looks like Ward has gone for a spin because he's got rear damage as well.
Yeah, once you get rear damage on this car, there is no point of really just trying to wrestle the car. So it looks like there was a bit of contact between Shane and Ian, because we can see Shane's coming into the pit lane. But no, he hasn't got damage at all. So I wonder, may have actually been well before, maybe towards the beginning of the race, that he must have picked up the damage, because he's still sticking on the car. It is heavy damage for all of our drivers, as we saw with Pacheco getting engine damage on the exit of turn 1, and that car was not being fixed at all. It wasn't being a quick fix, a 30-second fix as you pilot around the track. So he's well down the order, and that is bad news, unfortunately, for the team in Bundaberg Red Racing. But as we have Tyler Lansdale running a very nice race there, sitting nicely in third. He's got himself a bit of a gap between himself and Nax and even Foster up ahead. So he's running his own race as well as Foster. Ando is running a little bit of a faster strategy on the soft tires. He's really just trying to eke that margin out as quickly as he can, build a gap, run as many tires. If I know Ando very well, he's going to probably run those soft tires and probably run another set of soft tires before he throws one set of hards to finish this race. And I think, and I will say that might not be the bad strategy, because it is a very fast lap around here. We're setting ourselves 1 minute 24.3 so far as your fastest lap set by Andrew Scott in car 787 rather. And you know, I have a feeling if he runs another 13, maybe 15 laps on a set of soft tires, you could definitely make that strategy work.
Yeah, if you manage the gap as well. So the question that I've got in my mind now is he going to switch back onto the hard tires for 1 lap, or is he going to try and take the hard tires to the end of the race? I'm sure he knows in his mind that he can probably be quite quick on the hard tires as well, and obviously they won't degrade at all. So I think it might depend a little bit on the gap, as we do see. Where's Foster gone? He's disappeared there suddenly on my racing screen. But I do question whether or not a little bit of action between Gow and Nax going on here as well. Gow does get ahead through the rear half of the circuit onto the back straight. Good little move there. The racing hard tires are, as you can see, very, very slow. If we're just comparing lap times between Nax and Ando here, there's a 2-second deficit per lap, which does really start to add up on this Atlanta circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we see Gow actually make a move very nicely on Nax, and because he's on the soft tires, so Gow's doing a fantastic job getting the hand Cooke entry. As I say that, he's just gone wide. It's a bit keeping him another commentator's curse there, as we saw there with Mitchell Collin in the comments below, giving us us saying that we gave Pacheco a commentator's curse there, but unfortunately, yeah, he's well down the order. And Gao, that the most crucial thing is he actually missed the pit entry by only just a small margin. So he's really going to be dragging this car around this 4-kilometer circuit for one more lap before he comes into the pit lane. Ward has still got rear bumper damage, and he's actually holding on very nicely there. So we'll give him a full credits there for Ward to be holding on to that car with a damaged rear. But he's actually closing up on Naxi, so he's not losing pace. So I believe his lap time's a 1 minute 26.3. The previous lap was a 1 minute 25, so he's got pace. So even with a broken rear end, he's actually keeping up with Nax on these medium tires.
Yeah, broken rear end. He's had 4 seconds of penalties so far in this race. And yeah, we're handing out commentators' curse like Oprah hands out cars. Everyone's going to have a curse today, unfortunately. So the commentators' box here really handing out the curses like crazy. So we won't spend too long on board with Ward, just in case we hand out yet another curse. But Nax doing very well, I think, here. Hats off to him to managing the hard tires so far. And to your point earlier, Nick, about the controller versus hardware, wheel hardware sort of conversation, once again, the medium tires being quite a good little balancing point. You know, if you're on the soft tires, you might only make them last 10 or so laps if you can't manage the tire life. And Ward goes for a bit of a sideways journey there across the grass, but very good car control from him being displayed to keep it on track. That is a clear result of the rear diffuser being all sorts of busted up.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to that point, yeah, I feel like for Ward, you always have to use that harder compound, that extra step harder when you have the softs and the mediums. So for Ward's case, if he knows that this track is really high on its tire degradation, as we also see with Gao, especially, is a very good example, still carrying around some damage, just like Ward. He's burning through his tires quite a fair bit as well, and he's actually losing time to Ward. So yes, the medium tires are a little bit slower, but if you are on the controller and you actually can make those tires work within those first couple of laps, you can have the pace over the other drivers on the wheel hardware. As we see Patton actually getting really molested by both Taylor and Vanderzen, and they're both going to go side by side with each other. They're going to try and both get past Patton in the Extreme Motorsports Car 23. Will they be able to get through? They're still going single file. I believe Vanderzen is actually gone through. I believe Scott Taylor's actually served a penalty there that we must have just missed. But Vanderzen for CP Motorsports will take 2 for 1 on the end of this back straight, and it does look very nicely done for car 132 coming through the 10A and 10B. Very nicely executed by the CP driver. 2 for 1 there for car 132, doing a nice job as we go on board with Patton right on to the start finish straight. He's looking into these mirrors and he sees an angry Kiwi, an angry shark in Glenn Mead right behind him in the PLE Esports, actually replacing, actually substituting for Matthew Johnson, who actually did not bring that up into the coverage. We did not see Matthew Johnson. That was the only driver that we're missing tonight. And Glenn Mead, as I said, he's a super sub driver. Any car he drives for, he's always happy to drive, because, you know, every time we've seen him on track, he's always been putting on some stellar performances, no matter what team he's in.
Yeah, Glenn Mead has been one of the standout replacement drivers here in the season so far. And of course, a bit of pride here, for Kiwi pride for me, seeing Bruce the Shark. Lovely to see him on board. Just a shame he's not usually driving for Diffusion Race Engineering, which would just make it a match made in heaven. You know, Kiwi team and a Kiwi driver. Is a nice little move there from Aiden Sampson on Kane Patton. I think Patton is now really starting to struggle with these hard tires. He's getting swallowed up by the field. And on the previous lap, we saw GLR Scotty not only having to serve the penalty, but not actually being in the slipstream, and just cost him time and time and time. And up the outside now we do see Patton. He's looking to get ahead of Aiden Sampson. Back to the main camera we go. The 21 car does well to stay ahead. Good little inside line there, and no cutback inside for Scotty. Great stuff, but the soft tires are reaching their end of the time.
And Scott Taylor's actually made a move. Scott Taylor just made a move there on Patton as well, so he actually took the opportunity. So Patton was running the outside line, was held up a little bit wide and ran a bit wide through 10A, and Scotty just came through and just took that position away from him. So he's up into P in position number 8 and doing a really nice job on those soft tires. But Patton, yeah, losing time, a thick hand over fist, and unfortunately he's losing a lot of time there. And as well, Robert Foster down in 10th place. So I believe he was also another late entrant late comer into the pit lane as well. So he actually extended his hard tyres out, sitting in 10th and really going to get into that rear wing of the Kiwi driver in Kane Pautasso. But he's going for an outside move, coming through into turn 7. It becomes very tricky. What is he going to do? Is he going to hold around the outside? He's attempting to do it. They're both giving each other some racing room through the turn 8. Gets it well executed before turn 8, and that is a move done for position 9 for Robert Foster for Mad Turtle Racing. A very nicely moved there by car 270, and now on those fresh soft tyres, he will be charged. He will be making a charge through to both Scotty, Samson, and not far ahead, Van der Zandt.
Of course, we have to note that Foster, who we're on board with right now, has just in the last 3 laps on these fresh tyres set the fastest lap of this race. So he's taken that away from Andrew Scott, a 1:24.298. That is a brilliant, brilliant time. So he is on a charge, and that kind of move, you cannot pull off a kind of move through turn 7 and 8 when you're on the hard tyres like that. You have to be on the softs, otherwise you just do not have the grip. As we see Nick Gout, he's come into the pits. He's going to get rid of those soft tyres and get out on track on a full nice set of fresh, well, actually we don't know quite what tyres he's going to come out on, but we will check in with that later on. As we do see Isa Renegade here in the 575 car. He's got front wing damage. Wonder if that was he was involved in some incidents earlier on, but he's got the 81 car behind him and on the soft tyres, so he's going to be chased down here quite rapidly, I suspect.
Yeah, Shane Haddad only came into the pit lane a few laps ago, so that's probably why he's down the order in car, I believe, car 81. So he's looking to pick his way through Kevin Cooper. The ISA Esports Audi TT goes for an inside move, thinks about it, but can't hold the inside line. Let's go for an exterior shot, and let's see if he's actually running the correct car, I believe. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he's running the right number and the right livery. There we go.
There we go.
It's not hard, Shane. Thank you.
Just click on the right button.
Thanks for that, Shane. And then as he goes for an outside move on Kevin Cooper, so Kevin has got no hope at all on those hard tyres, and Shane is well clear of the ISA driver in car 575 and makes that move very nicely, going through the 10A and 10B. But it's a very nice drive by the front few runners here, as we see both Andrew Scott still leading the way and Lansdale still holding on to P2. But Van der Zandt's actually, crucially, he's up into P3 now, clearing all of the traffic ahead of him. He's up into P3, got some clear air, and he's going to be punching out those fast laps as quickly as he can in the CP Motorsports car 132. And then we see down here, unfortunately, Mark Pacheco, he actually didn't come into change tyres. He actually just fixed the damage up. So that's why we see him further down the order, maybe struggling on those soft tyres, where the race is just going from bad to worse, unfortunately, for Mark Pacheco. And, you know, it could have been very crucial points for Bundaberg Red Racing. And then down in 13th place, we've got Peter McKenzie for Road Sick Racing. He's also really struggling this race so far. Not the complete opposite of what we saw in Barcelona, finishing up in a very healthy P5. But so far on lap 14 of 31, he's down in 13th place and not really setting the world alight. He's on the medium tyres, so you might be thinking about going further into this stint on this set of tyres before he throws on the hard tyres for a one-lap dash, potentially.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best strategy for him at this point, you know, especially when you don't qualify super high up the grid. And as you say, not setting the world alight in terms of lap times at the moment, though, you know, going onto the hards at the end of the race can be very risky. I think most drivers prefer to start on the slower tires, either try and take them longer in the race, you know, let the chaos evolve around them, and then right at the end of the race they get to jump onto the faster tire and do a whole bunch of overtakes in the last few laps, which is always a lot of fun. A bit risky, but a lot of fun. So a slower tire then for PJ Mack, as we do see a pit lane penalty here applied, I believe, for ISA Renegade. So Cooper, his race just going from bad to worse, sadly, down the bottom of the field, but those fresh racing softs will feel nice for a few laps. But it is Andrew Scott in the 787 car. He's into the pits now with basically a dead tire on the front left there. So impressive driving from him. His lap times have seriously degraded, though, in the last few laps, running into the low 125. So he needed to get off those. He's managed to get half the race, though. So here's the interesting thing. We've got Tyler, in the 888 car. He's been on hards the entire first half of this race. He's still got 25% of his fuel left. Will he? Well, he's not going to go into the pits this time. But when do you think we're going to see Tyler jump into the pits for a faster compounded tires?
Well, see, here's the thing. I'm actually thinking about he's trying to analyze the data that he's gotten from Andrew Scott. And as we see, Andrew's actually come out of the pit lane on the hard tires to do that 1 lap dash on the hard tires. As we see Lansdale on the fresher compound of on the worn harder compounds that he has. So he's going to find a little bit more grip compared to Andrew Scott. But I feel like this is some very crucial data for Lansdale's strategy. He's running a race that Andrew Scott is unfortunately running away with the victory. As we see a little bit of lag jolting with some of the drivers here tonight. But as we have as well, he's keeping his eye on Van der Zandt right behind. He's also really chewing through his tires. So if Lansdale runs this race, and if he actually comes into the pits right now, he's going to make this one-stop strategy work to him in a very good way, because I feel like that's what he's trying to do. Really extend out those hard tires, wait for drivers that are on the soft compounds after they got rid of their hard tires, wait for them to catch up to him. They will have to pit. Lansdale's going to pit, and he's going to do one stop less and potentially keep P2 in this race.
That'll be a fantastic result for him. I think that'll be his best result in the TCR Cup so far, a second position. Obviously, he qualified 4th today for Track Stars Racing, which is very impressive. And that looked like a slide, but it's not. In fact, it is Tyler going into the pits right now. Some latency, unfortunately, making his car do all sorts of crazy things. So we can just ignore that, and we see, is that Ando in the pits again? Yes, he's switched, I believe, from his hard tires that he's just come out and done one quick lap, and he'll be jumping back on the soft tire, I suspect. So provisionally, that puts Dean Van der Zandt up into the lead of this race, but it won't be for long because he's going to have to pit in the next couple of laps with the condition of those soft tires.
I would even say the next lap, but I want to keep an eye on the fuel gauges that both Ando and Lansdale are going to have. They're both on 21 liters, so this is very crucial when you run those soft tires on a very low tank of fuel, roughly about the 80% mark. You are looking to put yourselves in a very handy position, as we see Ando running out running onto the field on 78, Lansdale on 80 liters. So this is the perfect number for the drivers here tonight to be running that strategy, 80 liters of fuel, run home to the finish, and really set the world alight on those fast laps. But I want to look at Lansdale, because I don't know whether it was a timing monitor glitch or something happened, but I don't know if it was actually registered to be jumping on the soft tires. No, he's actually jumped on the medium tires. So this is an interesting strategy for Lansdale. So I'm actually curious to see why he's on the medium tires. I would have assumed, racing against Ando came in the pit lane on lap 15. So he went one extra lap and followed Ando into the pit lane whilst he was on a fresh set of hard tires compared to worn 16-lap tires, but he's on the medium tires. So I don't know. I'm a little bit confused with the strategy here.
I have to agree. I would have thought that since we've seen Ando manage to get 15, I think it was 15 laps on the soft tire, it's obviously doable. I mean, Tyler maybe just a little bit worried about the end life of those soft tires. It gets very tricky around this circuit if you don't have good tire life on board. So it's still possible that he's made a little bit of a mistake there. Click the button for the medium tires, and the engineers may have come out with the wrong tires and done a Ferrari on him. Let's hope that's not the case, because you never want to have mistakes, but I think Tyler must be confident that he can take these medium tires and push them all the way to the end and absolutely throw them around. But I don't know.
And this is a crucial moment. This has become a crucial moment in the race as well. Van der Zandt is actually ahead of Lansdale. So Lansdale, he's all the way up the road there. So there's a comfortable margin there for Van der Zandt. So that in-lap was absolutely incredibly strong there by Dean Van der Zandt from CP Motorsports, and he can only just see Andrew Scott up ahead, who's actually being held up by Naki Nax in 4th place. So yeah, there you go, being held up by the Ned Racing drivers, actually helping Van der Zandt close the gap, and he's actually close seconds on Andrew Scott on that lap. So Nax being holding him up, he doesn't have a right. Oh, sorry. He has the right to not give that position up, because it is fighting for position. We have to remind ourselves. He is going defensive, so he's actually going to be able to hold him up a little bit more. Andrew on the faster compound of the soft tires makes a very nicely executed move right going into 10B around the outside that turns into the inside. But wow, some good racing there, and very costly there for Andrew Scott to lose some time to Van der Zant.
Yeah, Van der Zant will be looking at his front windshield and thinking, yes, yes, yes. The Ned's Racing driver there of Nax did not have to give way whatsoever. But you can see the difference in tires. And Ando gets onto the grass and nearly goes for a spin, executing a good bit of car control there to keep his car on the track. But yeah, these front tires just get absolutely brutalized by the Audi TT cars.
Oh, yeah.
And the S's are just absolutely ruthless on them. So yeah, it's a tricky one.
And he's not letting go of him. He's not really letting go of Andrew Scott. He's actually keeping him well beneath that slipstream range. So if he gets a good exit out of turn 8, obviously Andrew's going to have a little bit more traction on the exit of turn 8. But if he can stay within that rear wing, within that 3/10, 4/10 margin, he'll be getting a nice little toe down this back straight going through to the uphill chicane. But I think he might just be a little bit further back there. But he was running some good pace. He's actually on the soft tires as well. So I guess with Scott's grip advantage, he was able to outbrake Nax and go around the outside. So unfortunately, he's not able to close up on this lap. But he's going to have a fast Van der Zant right behind him, and then we have Dean Van der Zant in 5th place, which will turn into P2 once everyone cycles through their pit lane. As we see Shane Addard in the pit lane for Trak Racer TCR, and he's really closed the gap. So this strategy is working fantastic for Van der Zant in the provisional P2.
Whoa.
As we see Lansdale, he almost went wide there, but a bit of latency netcode, unfortunately, there, setting a personal best of a 25.8. But that's really slow compared to what's the fastest lap time with Robert Foster with a 1 minute 24.2, which was set on his opening stint on the soft tires. And yeah, you can see he's losing time even to Mackenzie. Mackenzie's actually closed up a little bit there. His last lap was to 26.3, so maybe not closed up too much. So, but I'm still very confused to how and maybe why he might be on the soft tires. Maybe he's worried that he might not be able to save tires as much as what Andrew and both Dean can do.
Yeah, but that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because Tyler had plenty of clean air in front of him, so he had all the opportunity in the world to keep some good lap times and also save his tires. He wouldn't be running in the dirty air. And given that Dean and Ando will be running on the soft tires, he's potentially missed out on a P2 here, Tyler has. So lucky for him, he'll get a podium because Ward, right at the beginning, had a massive incident and picked up 4 seconds of penalties. So Ward being right out of there has kind of given Tyler the default P3 position. But yeah, Tyler could be coming under maybe a little bit of pressure later in this race, not necessarily from PJ Mack, but I'm actually looking at Brucey the Shark right now. He's not too far down the road from Tyler, and he's on the soft tire.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to keep my eyes on Foster as well. He's actually come into the pit lane. He's about to get rid of his soft tires, and I feel like he's going to be putting on another set of soft tires on this strategy call for his final pit stop. As we look to, hopefully I want to try and see if we can find
Foster. There we go.
There he is. So he's actually ahead. So wow. So he's actually ahead of Lansdale. So this strategy call played by the Track Stars Racing driver is not working well to Carb Triple Eight here. And we have Foster, he's come from out of nowhere. He's back up onto the podium position. So he's basically actually stole that position away from Lansdale. So what was potentially a P2 for Tyler, unfortunately, he's down in P4, and he's not closing that gap whatsoever because of those fresh soft tires that Robert Foster has, the freshest of the lot compared to the 2 ahead of him, compared to the 3 drivers ahead of him. He's got that P3 well in the bag, barring any incident.
And we do see a move from Dean Van der Zant. Yes, but Nax is going into the pits, so he wasn't going to fight that too hard.
Very nice move there by Van der Zant, and now he's got clear track, he's got clear air, and he's got a Me Cougar driver ahead of him as he goes through turn 1 for the 22nd time of asking, and both Van der Zant as well through turn 1 very nicely there. We're looking at about roughly about a 2.5-3 second margin between those 2 drivers up in 1st and 2nd place, very well comfortable ahead of Robert Foster in 3rd place, and then Tyler Lansdale 4th, and then we have Big Bruce the Shark in Glen Mead in 5th place, Scott Taylor 7th, Aiden Sampson 8th, and as we have Nax actually in the pit lane, he was sitting in 8th place, but that's actually now been taken over by Gao, who's done a very nice job there in the Cooke privateer entry. But I also want to be keeping my eyes on Mead at the end of this race. Like you said, he is a driver that, again, on a fresh set of soft tyres, and he's really closing that gap to Lansdale as we look through those lap times later on. But we have Samson in 7th, Gao in 8th, and then we have Shane Addard, who actually came in the pit lane not long ago in 9th place. So this is a very good result here for Trak Race Tag, back on the charge in the TCR Cup. Not so much in the Player One GT3 Championship, but they're putting their name forward as a contender for a good result here tonight. And Car 81 seems to be doing a very good job there, putting that car in a very solid position right underneath that rear wing from Nick Gow, hopefully getting himself inside the top 8 before the end of this race. And then in 10th place, Kane Patton for Extreme Motorsports, having a much better round this time round in car 23, so finishing up into P10, but he has his good mate in Nax in 11th place, who's just came out of the pit lane on soft tyres, so he'll be taking that position away from him in the next couple of laps. And then we have Ward, the man that started on the soft tyres at the beginning of this stint, is on the hard tyres now, down in 12th place. Kevin Cooper in 13th on those soft tyres, worn soft tyres, but fairly comfortably quicker than Ward in 12th place. And then right behind, Peter McKenzie and Mark Pacheco, who unfortunately suffered that massive crash at turn 1 in the opening stint, is down in 15th and last place. But the man that is still leading the way on lap 23, Andrew Scott, the Me Cougar driver, I mean, no one's able to stop him. I think Van der Zande's actually losing time to Andrew Scott in second place, so he's losing time. And my goodness, he's just a man on form here in the Trak Racer TCR Cup.
Yeah, I reckon he's got I don't think he uses a wheel. I think he uses a flight control stick, doesn't he? Or maybe a dance pad or something. I heard this commentary line last night, because of course we've had quite the week in sim racing, actually. Sorry to take a little aside here, but we've had Le Mans 8 Hours for Track Stars, and then we've had the Super Series, I believe it's called, between 4 of the race leagues in Australia and New Zealand last night. I believe you were on the commentary box for that as well.
Yes, correct. Absolutely, it was a very good event that was well organised, and yeah, some of the 4 of the best teams of the 4 of the best league races or league competitions in Australia and New Zealand, all duking it out for 4 races, and it was some great racing. But you know, and we know we are talking about the exterior thoughts, and we've got to keep our eyes on MotorMotion. I can definitely see, and you know, me being a Track Stars admin and team boss, I can definitely see MotorMotion E-Series putting their name forward next year for this competition, because my goodness, the competition last night was absolutely incredible, and MotorMotion is on the rise, and they have a projection next to none. You know, they're really propelling themselves as to be one of the top teams, or one of the top series in on the PlayStation 5.
Couldn't agree more. The racing we've seen throughout not only the GT3 Championship, but also the TCR Cup, and as I've heard, I haven't been involved in MotorMotion long enough to have seen the Surefire Supercars series, but from what I have seen, it has been absolutely amazing as well. So MotorMotion E-Series doing well to develop and build itself into one of the top racing leagues. I'd love to see them in that Super Series as well, because yes, as you said, it was some fantastic racing last night, just absolutely brilliant. And to see these leagues come through and help drivers develop their racecraft, develop their skills in different series of vehicles, and of course GT7 being a platform that everyone can engage in regardless of your hardware, it really does start to show that there's just such a great community here, Nick, in Australia and New Zealand for this kind of motorsports. And I think it's been a real privilege for I'm sure both of us to have been involved in the broadcast side of it, where we get to oversee all the different things happening in a plethora of different leagues. So yeah, it's just been brilliant to see it evolve. And of course, all the hard work done in the background to get large sponsors on board like Per Mobile as well. It's just absolutely brilliant to see. And we do see Brucey here starting to catch up onto the back of Tyler Lansdell. So this action over the next 6 laps is going to heat up because the medium tires of Tyler are going to start running out, I suspect, and so will Brucey. So it's going to be a ice skating rink battle to the end between these two, I suspect, for 4th position.
Yeah, exactly. You have to keep an eye on Lansdale because, you know, I think we saw a very similar strategy, I think a couple of rounds ago, where Lansdale actually was on the medium tires and he lost out a lot of positions towards the end of the race. There was that one I'm talking about was 2 rounds ago at Laguna Seca. He finished on the medium tires and he just got absolutely swamped by so many drivers. And hoping for that repeat to not happen to him in car 888, but Glenn Mead on those soft tires is really charging through as the sun is setting on the Division 1 drivers here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for what has been a fantastic race here. Not too many overtakes, not too much action. Now towards this last thing, now everyone's actually gone through and done their pit stops for the final time, but it's still the man that leads the way. Andrew Scott, 787, leading to hopefully is going to be putting himself in a very comfortable position to win 5 on the trot. I mean, we always talk about, you know, Red Bull Racing or Max Verstappen trying to have a clean season and a clean sweep of victories, but if Max can't do it, I'm pretty sure Andrew Scott can definitely do it this year.
I believe that 100%. If the pundits were looking at this, I don't think Ando would have the best odds necessarily in terms of that, because he's just proven himself time and time again, not only in MotorMotion E-Series across both the GT3 Championship and the TCR Cup, but throughout a number of other different leagues as well. He's just been absolutely dominant. So, you know, it's good to see the likes of Dean van der Zandt and Robert Foster be able to bring that fight to him on occasion. In another league that I've commentated on before, we've had chaps like Slapper's Mate as well, who's been bringing some competition to the top there as well. But yeah, it's just a bit of a dominant run from Ando, and I don't know where he gets this pace, and I'd love to have his ability to manage some tires, but all of these guys on the grid here just performing fantastically well with what is a very challenging Audi TT Cup car to drive.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if we had to run a team, you and I, you know, we call it the commentator's car, you know, I don't think we'd be able to put ourselves up towards this front order, because my goodness, these drivers are absolutely incredible. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the Audi TT. I prefer myself the what we used in the Pilot Series, the Brendan McGann Trophy. That car was an absolute joy to drive, but these guys are doing a fantastic job. They're 5 rounds into this season, and every driver you see some stellar performances. And I think the main one, obviously, Andrew Scott, about to winning 4 in a row, potentially winning 5 at the end of this race. But then you've got drivers right behind, you know, GLR Scotty and Scott Taylor putting on a great performance. Peter McKenzie for Rosic Racing getting himself a top 5. Ward coming out of nowhere and putting himself on the line and really just trying to, you know, keep his doubters of the controller minds down and really just try and put on some exceptional performances. Robert Foster as well in qualifying has got that 1 lap pace. Unfortunately, not able to translate that into race pace, but he's doing a good job. Sitting on the podium very comfortably, well ahead of Tyler Lansdale. And then, yeah, you know, as I said, you got so many drivers around here absolutely able to improve their racecrafts. And I guess it's because of this challenge that the drivers have with the FF cars, with the front-wheel drive, front-engine Audi TTs.
Yeah, very impressive indeed. And I think it's a really nice thing as well to see all the different teams, the teamwork. I'm sure we'll be seeing potentially a similar strategy for the Me Cougar driver development team. But it's good to see the information being passed around as well, because as the season develops and they get more and more used to driving these Audi TT cars, I think we had an Audi TT pre-season race where a lot of the drivers were able to get to grips with this 2016 cars. And yeah, I think, you know, just to see the development of the speed overall and management of the tires being, I think, probably one of the more essential skills. And it is probably one of the more advanced skills and talent that is required for top-end racing, especially in the likes of Division 1, is the management of tires. How do you drive a car in a very fast way, but also maintain very, very good tire life? And I think there's been a lot of secrets being shared throughout the grid, whether it's between teammates or between mates. As you know, all the drivers on the grid, despite them running in different teams for the most part, I think they're all pretty much all on good terms and all good friendships happening in the background. And quick note here on Ando's tyres, he is running a little bit low, and Dean's tyres are looking a little bit better.
He has started to close up a little bit. He's actually gotten a little bit quicker over these last couple laps, but only by tenths, but not by seconds. And that's unfortunately for Van der Zandt is not enough to be challenging Andrew Scott for the victory tonight. But keep his hopes up high. It's only about 2 and a bit more laps to go. Anything can happen. A mistake into turn 1 especially could happen for Andrew Scott. And even Robert Foster right behind. He's the man that actually came in later than these guys. He's actually right in that pecking order there. He can actually see the 2 cars ahead of him as they're exiting 10B into turn 11. And this is a very good recovery drive here for Robert Foster. Hasn't had the best season in the Trak Racer TCR Cup, but he's doing a fantastic job putting off a master strategy to get him to jump Tyler Lansdale in 3rd place, and keeping and putting himself right into contention of, I guess in a way trying to fend off, try to put on a challenge for both Van der Zandt and Lansdale in the championship, as they both sit 2nd and 3rd in the championship respectively. But Foster's right behind in 4th, a fair margin back. So he's going to be using these last couple of rounds to really hone in on that racecraft and really just try and get that qualifying car and turn it into a race car, because that's what he's missing. But so far tonight, he's done the strategy calls perfectly. He hasn't really made too many mistakes, and a podium for him is definitely a great reward for his hard work.
Couldn't agree more. And yeah, the result today with Foster going up into 3rd position, this could actually flip the driver's standing in Division 1. As you said, Tyler currently for Trackstars in 3rd position in the Drivers' Championship for Division 1, and only 16 points between them. So this could be the difference between getting up into the podium positions for the overall season Drivers' Championship. And yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why we've taken a look at this medium strategy of Tyler's, and just, a couple of question marks have just popped up right above our heads here in the commentary box, because he was really on point. He could have been right up there in P2 potentially in this race and really secured that 3rd position overall, and maybe even put himself in a position to challenge Dean Van der Zandt, who, as we've said before, has missed a couple of rounds this season. Could have been challenging for P2 overall in the Drivers' Championship. But hindsight is 2020, and certainly things are quite 2020 here with all the information we've got in our commentary box. So easy to say it up here, very difficult to get it done right on the track and over the course of a season.
As long as you're not bringing in a virus into this commentator's box, and that's fantastic. But we have Glenn Mead, who unfortunately couldn't put the charge through to Tyler Lansdale. His tyres are absolutely shot, so he's going to be settling in for P5. So he was closing in on Lansdale, but I did make that call saying that, even though Mead was closing in, those soft tyres were about to run out on him, and they has done, unfortunately, for both Mead, Taylor, and Samson as well. They really are struggling on those tyre wears. But as we cut back to the front there, we are on the final lap here for Division 1 for the Trak Racer TCR Cup. Andrew Scott, the night has fallen for our fans here. They are all cheering and standing for the round of applause for what is going to be 5 on the trot for car 787 for the Cooke driver development team. He's about to cross that finish line, execute turn 11 fine, go through to turn 12, no mistakes at all, and car 787 and Andrew Scott takes the victory yet again. That is 5 in a row for the 787 pilot, the Qantas pilot in Ando 787. Well done to you. Van der Zandt on his return back to the Trak Racer TCR Cup finishes in P2, just like his substitute driver last time out in Barcelona. And then we have Robert Foster, great drive for Foster to be up into 3rd place. Lansdale holds on to 4th place on the different strategy compared to the front runners. Glenn Mead, the super sub, inside the top 5 yet again. So great job for him, and a great performance there for the PLE Esports Juice Motorsports entry in 5th. GLR Scotty, the privateer, the first of the privateers, in 6th place. Aiden Sampson for Diffusion Race Engineering in 7th place. Naki Nax running a late strategy on those soft tyres in 8th place. Actually, no, it's actually Shane Addard in 8th place. So Addard's done a fantastic job to move himself up into 8th. Then we have Nax in 9th. Patton still holds on to 10th place, fending off from Peter McKenzie in 11th place. Ian Ward in 12th. after what was some strong pace there by Pacheco in the early stint, and unfortunately for him, is down in 13th place for Bundaberg. Red Racing just fends off from Kevin Cooper in 14th place, and Nick Gow runs up the rear of the field in 15th place, a lap down on the front runners. But as we go through the final standings here, it is Andrew Scott for Cooke Driver Development taking the big points, 45 points to be precise. Didn't get the fastest lap there in the end there. That belonged to Robert Foster with a 1 minute 23.9. Some blistering pace by the Mad Turtle Racing, and good to see a name like him on that podium step after it's been so long, and a bit of bad run there for Robert Foster over the last few rounds, but a podium is well deserved and well earned.
Correct, and we are getting the new standings for Driver Championship in Division 1 compiled at the moment. We'll go over to those in just a second. I think a bit of a standout drive here for Foster today. Excellent strategy, well executed. He wasn't up to towards the top of the field. Oh, sorry, he was right at the start of the field, so he lost a couple of places, unfortunately, during the race, but still managed to recover and bring it all back. I think the unfortunate loser for today was probably Ian Ward, losing out. Really had a great start, but just ended up in the wall with penalties, and the strategy just seemed to degrade over the race. But I think a little bit of a shout out as well for the likes of Big Bruce the Shark, that's Glenn Mead, and Scott Taylor as well, who put in some great positions to get themselves into 5th and 6th on the grid. And yes, the results are in. So let's go over to the current Driver Championship after round 5 for Division 1. And this is how it looks. And it is Dean van der Zandt in 2nd place. Andrew Scott, of course, out to a commanding lead now by nearly 80 points. And then the battle for 3rd and 4th is starting to heat up. Only 9 points between them. So that gap has dropped by 7 points this round, with Tyler still holding on to the 3rd position, followed by Robert Foster in 4th position there.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's actually, well, with Lansdale losing ground to Vanderson, he's actually brought in Foster. So that battle for 3rd is going to heat up over the next couple of rounds as we conclude the Trak Racer TCR Cup. But a few standouts as well. As to a few standout drives there from some of the drivers. We saw Scott Taylor now up into P5, so well clear of 6th place driver in Shane Addard, who put on a really good performance there in that last race in finishing 8th overall. So very good drive there for Shane and for Strike Race Tech. Matthew Johnson unfortunately did not make an appearance tonight, so he's down in 7th place. He actually only lost 1 position, mind you. That's actually quite an interesting fact there for you, George. He actually lost 1 position in the standings, and he's only 1 point behind Shane. So anything can happen between those two drivers. Peter McKenzie up in 8th place, and Kevin Cooper in 9th place. So only 7 points between 6th and 9th. It's absolutely close between the fight for 6th place. But yeah, what a race it's been.
That is a fantastic race. Yeah.
Plenty of action, plenty of drama, a couple of controversial strategies, some weird strategies, some awesome strategies. And yeah, we're just not so sure who we're going to give our driver of the day to. I don't know who I'm going to give my driver of the day to, so I'm going to leave that to you, George. You've been throwing me under the bus over the last couple of rounds, so yes. Why don't you have a go?
Yep, that's quite correct. I think at the end of the day, I mean, Andrew Scott has been putting on a dominant performance today. I'd love to be able to give this to Robert Foster as well, but losing a couple of the positions in qualifying, where it was more or less the reverse happening for Andrew Scott. So I have to say, with such a dominant run this week and executing once again a perfect strategy for Road Atlanta giving us a bunch of action at the start, as well as some interesting strategy execution throughout the race. So I think my driver of the day today has got to go to Andrew Scott. A standout performance from him once again. Not taking pole in qualifying, but able to gain the positions he needed with an early choice to start on the soft tyre, and with the rest of the field around him actually just opting to go on the slower hard tyre for a lot longer. So I think overall that shows that his strategy execution here really took away the win, and he deserved that 100% today. So that is going to be
absolutely, yeah. Couldn't agree more there for Andrew Scott. So well executed. The master of strategies, the master of the Tyre Whisperer, the master of these TCR Cups, the Audi TTs, and absolutely in dominant force there for Andrew Scott. An absolute clinical race. Dropped down to P3 at the end of turn 1 at the start of the race, but was able to pick out his competitors pretty easily. And yeah, you can't fault him whatsoever.
Absolutely. So that is going to conclude our coverage for Division 1. Tune in. We're still going. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we will be back for our favorite division, Nick. It is Division 2 coming up in about 10 minutes. We will speak to you all momentarily. Please stay tuned on the broadcast. And of course, if you've been enjoying tonight's commentary and action on track so far, please do give us a like and subscribe on the MotorMotion E-Series YouTube channel. And we will be back with you in about 10 minutes. We will see you then, folks. Stay tuned. Division 2 is coming right up for the Trak Racer TCR Cup with MotorMotion E-Series. back, ladies and gentlemen, and it is time for the Trak Racer TCR Cup Division 2 coverage, brought to you by MotorMotion E-Series, Trak Racer, and of course we are still at the Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta. We've had an exciting race in Division 1, and we are very much looking forward to seeing exactly what happens in Division 2. It's the fiery division. It's the division through the flames they come and develop their racing skills to prove that they have what it takes to take out a driver championship in the Division 2 standings. And we will be taking you to look at some action on track very, very soon. But first, we've got to jump through a little bit of information about where they're at now. The cars are out doing their qualifying laps at the moment. We'll take you through the grid once that's finished. And of course, it is myself, George Cooke, and Nick Pautasso in the commentary box. Nick, we've had a fantastic Division 1. Let's go and check out some of the information about where Div 2 is at right now, and then we'll jump over into the qualifying grid and then go for a fiery race at Road Atlanta with Division 2.
Yeah, just come off the track there. Just going for a little bit of a run in Ando's Meet Cougar car 787, and my goodness, it feels like an absolute plane. It feels like an absolute joy to drive. It's an absolute stunning piece of machinery, that car 787. So I'll be hoping to jump in a few other cars and see what their setups are like and what they feel behind the driver's seat of their LDT teams for their respective teams. But yeah, we are here for Division 2, and we are going from our driver standings here from what it was last time out at Catalonia. It is still Mitchell Collin for Bundaberg Red Racing leading the way ahead of his rival and ahead of his good mate in Matt Kuchar for Diffusion Race Engineering. Those two are inseparable in all the races that we've seen them compete in. But look behind, but the driver not far behind and is setting the world alight is, again, another Meet Cougar driver. It is Mick Hill in third place. So watch him start to slowly climb up the standings here. He's only 10 points behind Kuchar, and in third place and right behind there is Ben Churchill, who put on a fabulous performance at Catalonia, where he finished P2. Is his best position to date in the TCR Cup. And then Rick for Trackstars Racing with the fifth driver to hit 3 digits on 100 points, and not far behind is Sean Parker for Robo Sport Racing, who picked up victory last time out at Catalonia in 6th place, only 10 points behind him.
That's right, and we do have a missed round here, unfortunately, for Charles Nathaniel, ISA Tube VNZ for ISA Esports, so unfortunately he will not be with us today. I believe, on track. So then in 8th position, we've got for Extreme Motorsports, Hasseldine, and some good driving from him recently, but not a great run of results, sadly, finishing 11th last time out. We've got Hamilton for Mad Turtle Racing on 60 points, down in 9th position of the Drivers' Championship. Harrison in 10th. Karma Foster for Ned Racing on 52 points. So a little bit of a battle here going on for the top 10 positions in the Driver Championship for Division 2. We've got Griffin for Juiced Motorsport on 50 points. That's Griffo Tony. And we've got Hoa here for one of our privateers in the league at 42 points, followed by Troy Britnell for Strike Race Tech. And then, of course, Karras as well. Another privateer in this league, not having a good run of races, unfortunately, there, but actually picking up a 12th position last time out, getting himself 9 points. So it's going to be quite an interesting one. As you said, Nick, quite a battle going on for the top 3. These guys are all inseparable. It'll be very interesting to see where they qualify today.
Yeah, absolutely, and I want to be keeping my eyes on that top 4. I want to be keeping my eyes on the Road 6 driver in Ben Churchill, as well as Mick Hill. I want to be seeing how far he can progress up the championship standings with only 3 rounds to go. After this round, it'll be 2 rounds to go, but we're about to complete the third last round of this Trak Racer TCR Cup, as we are hearing from the stewards and from the race officials that qualifying has been completed. And we are George and I are about to head down to the grid, and we are about to see who has qualified on pole position for round 5 of Division 2. It is Mick Hill, the Meet Cougar drive development driver in I believe it's car number 3. Yeah, I'm just trying to remember the car numbers. It is car number 3 for Mick Hill on pole position, with Mitchell Collin in 2nd place, the championship leader. Again, putting that car on the front row, just where he needs to put it to stretch out that gap, but he needs to fend off from Mick Hill if he has any chances of taking Division 2 title away. And then Tony Griffin, his best qualifying for Just Motorsports in P3, and even as well for Sean Parker up into P4. The last round victor in Sean Parker up into 4th place. So that's a great start. And that's some great momentum for the Rockway Sport racing driver, ending up in 4th place. 5th place, we have Matt Kutscher, a little bit further behind his competitor in Colin, but he's starting in P5. Ricky Rick for the Track Stars Racing in 6th place. And then Troy Britnell down the order in the championship, but putting himself in a very good position to strike race tech. Can he emulate what his teammate in Shane Addard did in the main series? We'll find in the main division. We'll find out very soon at the end of the 31 laps. And then Ben Churchill in 8th place. So he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to put any pressure on the top 3 in the championship. In 9th place, we have Mark Hasseldine. And then we have the return of our favorite driver in 10th place. It is Greg Hamilton for Mad Turtle Racing. He's missed a couple of rounds in that Mad Turtle Racing entry, but he's back, he's ready to go, he's ready for the fight, and he's down in 10th place with Hoey in 11th and Stephen Harrison for CP Motorsports Car 41 starting in 12th place. And then rounding up at the rear of the field and on the 7th row of the grid, it is Karis, the privateer, who I believe actually replaced Hamilton for Mad Turtle Racing, is down in 13th place as his sole privateer. And then Karma Foster in 14th place for Ned Racing. And we've missed a driver tonight, but it is still great to see 14 drivers ready to go and ready to tackle this division. And who will come out on top, we will find out in due time. But if we're going to put some bets on here, George, I don't know, we have to expect some surprises here. So I'm going to be looking down towards Tony Griffin.
Yeah.
Who's coming late. I have a feeling either between Tony Griffin and Sean Parker, if they can get their strategies right. We've seen Sean Parker do some great strategies in the last rounds at Barcelona. Can he do it again and get back-to-back victories?
That's the question, and it is all coming down to strategy today. And now I'm hearing from the crew down on the track that we are ready to go racing here in Division 2. So let's jump over now and get this race started. And here we go. The lights are going out. We've got 1 light, we've got 2 lights, we've got 3, 4, 5, and we are away for the round 5 in Division 2 Trak Racer TCR Cup at Michelin Raceway, and a good start there for Disposable Hero. We've got Mick Collins doing very well as well. Griffo getting away to a great start there. He might even get up ahead of Collins, and no, a little bit of contact there into turn 1. Parker gets on the inside there of Matt Kutscher. Matt Kutscher's going to have to go around the outside into turn 1. He does. So turn 1 going through smoothly at the moment. Great start from all the competitors. Parker losing out to Troy Britnell. Troy Britnell getting 1 place on the start grid there. That is a fantastic start for him.
Yeah, so far the biggest loser is Ricky Rick in 7th place. He's lost a fair few positions there in 7th place. Lost 2 positions at the start of the race, but the front 3 haven't changed so far. It is Hill over Colin, over to Griffin, and we see Chops has actually lost a position to Kutscher, so he's dropped 1 position. That inside line is very crucial. Has been a very pivotal moment in this racing so far here at Road as we see Ricky Rick run a little bit wide on turn 8 on the opening lap. Cold hard tyres, mind you, for Ricky Rick. So really struggling to get the power down on the exit of turn 8. But that inside line has become very, very crucial as getting that move done on the opening lap, as we almost saw there with Griffin. He nearly made the move on Mitchell Colliner, but now we have Churchill, who's looking to make a move on Rick into 10A and 10B for the first time at the conclusion of the lap 1. It is still Mick Hill, and as we see some drivers coming into the pit lane, we see Churchill, the first of the drivers, to blink and get rid of those hard tyres and run very strong here. But we have Kutscher in the pit lane. He's coming in on the opening lap here, so he must have picked up some damage there, George. So we must have missed something there for the Diffusion Race Engineering driver. The man that's in 2nd place in the championship is in the pit lane.
Yeah, I think we did miss something there. I can't remember what tyre he started on either, unfortunately. I missed that too. So it's going to be an interesting race for him then.
It did register. He was on the soft tyres, so he must have picked up damage somewhere.
Yeah, I think so.
Very unfortunate, because he's riding contention with this championship, but you know, with an early pit stop, and unfortunately you're putting yourself down the order in 13th place, only fixing the damage. No tyre change for Cooke, and he's so far back behind Colin now. He might not lose. He's going to lose out to Colin, but he's going to definitely lose out to Mick Hill if it finishes this way. But so far, the drivers up ahead are still putting themselves in a very good positions there. They're all relatively close to each other at the end of lap, coming to the end of lap 2, as we see Hoey right into that slipstream of, I believe, of Churchill for Mad Turtle Racing. Can't make the move, unfortunately, but the Mad Turtle Racing driver in Churchill has made a move on Ricky Rick up into 6th place. And Ricky, unfortunately, losing another position to Hoey. He's going to go for an inside move into turn 11. Very easily done there by the privateer. Car 63 up into 7th place. And Ricky Rick, unfortunately, losing positions hand over fist, unfortunately. Losing 3 at the start there. Those hard tyres are not working for him in car 28.
Yeah, we've seen this in Division 1 as well, the hard tyres. You just start to drop positions over and over and over and drop down the field quite rapidly because there is a 2-second deficit to the soft tyres, the medium sitting in between those two compounds in terms of time lost per lap to the softs. So yeah, starting on the racing hards and then continuing to use them for a long period of time. We did see this work out a little bit for Tyler Lansdell in Division 1, but the late choice to go onto the the medium tyres did not work out for him. We can just see the lack of grip in Madrick's Audi TT car there, the 28 car. Just doesn't have the grip to keep up with these guys. So, you know, the battle now for 6th position, going between Churchill and ahead of them, is actually doing very well so far, is Troy Britnell, up from 7th position, I believe.
Yeah, he's done a really good job there so far. He's on the soft tyres, so he's going to be running a little bit quicker there. As I saw in the background rather, we did see Mick Hill really defending from Mitchell Collin. The two are still battling it out here with Griffin and now Sean Parker back in their respective positions as they were at the start of the race. Griffin in 3rd and Chops in 4th place, but Mitchell Collin on the soft tyres, I believe Mick Hill might be on the hard tyres, so he's really trying to fend from Mitchell Collin. No, he's actually on the soft tyres, so it might be the tyre pressures on the Bundaberg Red Racing a little bit are up to the right pressures. Have the right pressure PSI on that car compared to the Me Cougar driver, because he's really closing in that gap. He's really putting pressure on car number 3, and you know, as he saw his teammate take victory in Division 1, he always wants to try and emulate a victory that Andrew puts in Division 1 and really just tries to, you know, really set out really put out an authority to say, you know, I've got a great teammate, but I'm also here to play and don't rule me out whatsoever. He's still in P1. Collins right underneath that rear wing. He's going to get a very good healthy slipstream from that Me Cougar car number 3. Will he be able to make a move through to 10A as they're coming into the 4th lap? At the end of the 4th lap, he's going to go think of an inside move. He brakes early, and that's some very smart driving there by Mitchell Collin to not make a move early on in this race.
Yeah, I think he can probably just hang in the slipstream and bide his time. He knows he's probably a little bit faster on track. I do wonder if we see the first place car there. I wonder if he's choosing to save tires a little bit. I think this might be some of the advice coming down from Andrew Scott in Division 1 for the Me Cougar driver development team. I do wonder if it's save the tires, you'll be good. Just make sure you go the distance. You know, if someone's behind you is pushing, they're getting the dirty air, they're having to use more mechanical grip. That means more degradation on the tires early on, and that can really make a difference throughout the remainder of this race. They're going to have 10 more laps, I believe, to get through on these racing soft tires, so saving can really make a difference overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And even the front two are just really pushing away, really running away from 3rd place. These guys are having a good battle for P3, the final step on the podium, as we're on lap 5 of 31, and they're really pulling away from Griffin and Parker in 3rd and 4th place. And they've actually got themselves a good gap over Troy Britnell as well in 5th place.
Correct, and we do see now Mitch Collin, he is making the move. He's got onto the outside into turn 10, and it's being switched back. The number 3 car goes for the switchback, brakes later into turn 10. Great defensive move there, holding the inside line. Wow.
That is some great brakes on that Cooke car. That was absolutely incredible. I thought hand over fist, I would say, you know, that's a move done for Mitch Collin, but those brakes on car number 3, absolutely incredible. Those Bremo brakes are working so well. They must have got themselves an upgraded package or something, because Ando was looking to make some great moves there to get past Robert Foster and at the start of the Division 1 race. And now he's got some, and now that car in the Cooke car, those Bremo brakes are really working very strong. Maybe Mitch Collins not too confident on the brakes so far as those tires are starting to wear in, and he's starting to lose a bit of the optimal pressures on the tire pressures on his car. We can see Mick Hill gaining a few car lengths over Colin on lap 6 of 31, but they're still very close to each other. This is going to be a mammoth battle to the end between these two guys. It's all about, as you say, tire preservation. Who's going to have the better tire life at the end of this one between these two, because so far they are running away with it.
Correct, and yeah, it's all going to come down to that strategy. If you can maintain the tires throughout the remainder of the race, you can, you know, look to have that quick switch onto the hard tires, and then to just move directly over to soft tires once again for the end of the race, and just you know, just use the tires to their maximum capability. But yeah, I mean, early on in the race, seeing Colin with such good pace definitely did something very, very clever to make sure he had the right temperatures in the car. A great first lap from him off the line, maybe just spinning the tires a little bit, get a little bit of extra heat in there. You know, there are ways and means of making sure that you have the tires up to the right temperature. And yeah, the difference between a couple of degrees of Celsius, I don't know what the Fahrenheit equivalent is on that. I'm not sure if I really care, even though we are at the Circuit of the Americas, so apologies to any of our American viewers. But a couple of degrees of Celsius difference there can make a huge amount of difference. It's almost the difference between having sort of super softs on and having soft tires on, if super softs existed in this game.
Absolutely. Well, we have with the GT Sport, the super softs were an option, and you know, when it came to races, sprint races like this, everyone would always use the harder compound. And as soon as you got to the last few laps, it's just like, why not? Let's just throw on some super soft. Let's set some blistering lap pace, and let's go full send. But I am very impressed by Troy Britnell holding on to 5th place, and you know, well clear of Churchill in 6th place and Hoey in 7th. But the boys up ahead, the top 4 are really running away with this. But he's using a lot more tires, is Troy, in car 55. He's running the right number this time, and his teammate hasn't taken that car away from him. He's saying that you can have car 55 back. It hasn't worked well for me in those last couple of rounds, but now back in 81, he's got himself into the top 8. So Britnell doing a really good job here, and he'll be looking to play out a very good strategy and hopefully get that car in the position where he wants it to be, inside that top 8, just like his teammate. But he's got some very good drivers behind him, Churchill and Hoey right behind in 7th and 8th place, as we have Hasseldine, I believe, in 8th place. Oh no, Oldsloff, I think from memory, it is, I'm just trying to...
Karras. Yes, Karras, yes.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah,
there we go. Do apologise, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, Karras is in the ISA Esports, replacing Nathaniel Charles in that car in 8th place.
Oh, we have a yellow flag.
Oh, something's happened up ahead, so a couple of drivers that we're looking to see.
Oh, and it's Troy Britnell.
Oh, so as we're singing all the praise again, a commentator's curse just strikes again for someone putting on a great performance. Unfortunately for Britnell, he drops well down the order there. He's about to get overtaken by Ricky Rick from Trackstars Racing, and from that 5th place was looking really nice. Unfortunately for Troy, he's down in 9th place and he's got early damage. What do you do in this instant, George? Do you have to? Would you have to soldier on and play the strategy, keep that Plan A strategy, or come into the pit lane?
I think the first order of business is apologise to your pit lane crew, but yeah, I think at this point you're pretty close to the 10-lap mark, but I think you've just got to drive through it. But look at the speed difference. Maverick just flies past him on the straight, so the damage to the front diffuser and the left wheel there is just absolutely going to ruin his race at this point, and he's got pace. We've seen it. And actually, just a note on their liveries. I think he's choosing to pit. Yes, he's been told by the pit lane engineers, get in to the pit lane, let's fix this damage, let's get you back out, and you go for a slightly longer stint on a different compound of tires. So we'll keep an eye on Troy Britnell and see exactly what kind of tire he's going to go out on after this little pit stop here. So I was hearing...
I have a feeling he might be put onto a strategy that he doesn't want to do. So he might be
Yeah.
potentially doing a three-stop strategy, as we have Matt Kuchar, who did come into the pit lane very early to fix some damage on his car. Is in 11th place there. He's setting some fast lap times there with a 1 minute 24.6 so far for Matt Kuchar. So some really good pace in that car. Unfortunately, not able to extract that up the front of the field there. And then we have Karma Foster in 12th place for Ned Racing. And then in 13th place, we have Ben Churchill, which by me was actually roasted in the comments just not long ago, saying the wrong names with Hammy to the bone. That is Greg Hamilton. And then now we have Ben Churchill for Road Seek Racing. So thank you very much for letting me know that. I haven't got that wrong this time. But
Yeah,
you are in 13th place there. Come on, mate. What are you doing down there?
well, hopefully he'll get up a few positions, right? And I did also hear over the radio as well, we got another grilling, which was from the Cooke driver development team, saying, trust me, guys, we're all on the same brake compound here. So despite our suspicions that they may have had an upgrade, no, it turns out they're actually on the same compound throughout the field. So the balance of performance here in the TCR Cup ensures that is the case. But yeah, it was just such a big difference between Mick Hill and Mitch Collin. So these guys just finding some little nicks with the car, the Audi TT car, finding a way to brake a little bit harder into those zones, or maybe just, finding the exact right braking zone that they needed to. It's definitely possible. So yeah, the Cooke driver development guys just going, nope, we're not cheating at all. There's no tomfoolery going on here at all. So,
absolutely
good to hear.
But I've actually noticed very interesting there, because as you did point out a few laps ago, you could see there Hills saved a lot of tires compared to Mitch Collin. He was really hounding the rear end of that Cooke car number 3. But you can see the tire wear that he's got. He's suffered so much in that dirty air and really trying to extract the maximum in car 30, and compared to Mick Hill's tire wear, he's absolutely saved them like no other, emulating his team boss and his team captain in Andrew Scott. But he's pulling a gap over Mitch Collin, and this is some great performance driving here by a Disposable Hero, leading the way in first, Mitch Collin in second. Griffin is actually, I have a feeling now Griffin is the next driver that could be putting in a fight for Mitch Collin. He's not too far behind there, I believe. That's roughly about 3 seconds over 3 seconds between those two drivers, as he's up at the top of the hill. And as we see Griffin coming up towards turn 6, yeah, he's not too far behind, but he's still got Sean Parker right on his rear bumper. He's not letting him go. Those two have been inseparable since the start of this race here, and they are really duking it out here, with Sean Parker wanting to get back into the winner's circle and try and get back-to-back victories for Robbo Sport Racing, which could be a 3-peat for Robbo Sport Racing if he gets himself on the top step.
Yeah, too right. And a nice little battle going on between these two. Good to see. And of course, it is for a podium position, so it's worth keeping an eye on this throughout the race. As you said, the fight between first and second is starting to get a little bit larger, but the tire life between these two here pretty much equal in third and fourth. But yeah, it is Mick Hill. He's just doing so well with the tires. So I don't know, maybe there is a little bit of a trick here to getting the tires to stay a little bit further alive, because the Cooke driver development guys have certainly shown us that throughout the entire season. Nearly every single race that we've been to, they have just shown that they have an absolute ability to keep the tires alive. And Sean Parker there, nearly looking for a move on Griffo.
Very close there. Has he made the move stick? He hasn't, not just yet. So the battle still rages on between those two. They're still fighting it out like hammer and tong, like no tomorrow. They're still fighting it out. This Division 2 racing has always brought up some awesome and classic moments between, but these guys are still duking it out on lap 12 or 31. You can't separate them whatsoever. And you can see there, Mitch Collin, he's really losing a lot of time, not to Mick Hill, but he's losing a lot of time to these guys right behind. They're not far behind them. And I feel like for both Parker and Griffin, they can run a few extra laps here. And Parker got a very nice run there on the exit of turn 8. He's right in that slipstream of the Juice Motorsports Audi TT. Where he's going to go? He's going to go left. He's going to go right. Will he go for the outside move? He's looking for the outside. Who's going to have the better brakes? Who's got the better Bremo brakes? Will the Robo Sport get himself up into P3? Will Griffin put a charge back in? He does. He sticks the nose in, chops the nose off, no pun intended, chops the nose off on chops, and he holds P3. Some great back and forth racing between these two. Great defensive driving there by Griffin, and still holds on to P3. Absolute masterclass. But it's not over yet. They're going to go through to turn 1. Parker can't find anywhere to make a move so far. He has to back off the throttle a little bit more, has to brake earlier and try and do it again before the first sequence of pit stops happens at the end of potentially this lap, because both drivers are running on that rim on the front left side of the car. I don't want to know what Mitch Collin has got on his car, because he must be right on the rim on his entry.
Yeah, he's probably in line for a puncture if he's not careful. And yeah, oh, wow, look at that. So he is nearly out of tyres, is Mitch Collin. That's why he's been dropping off the back of Mick Hill so much in the last few laps. And his lap times are, I mean, he might as well be on hard tyres at this point. He needs to come in this lap. Otherwise, he's going to get eaten up.
It's gone.
Yeah,
it is actually gone now. So there's no tread of white whatsoever on that soft tire. He's really losing so much time to Mick Hill in second, and Griffin and Parker right behind. And Griffin and Parker are battling it out like no tomorrow. They've both got equal tire wear, but they're really closing in. And Griffin again going defensive. He's put the nose on the inside there, put the car on the inside. Thought there was pressure from the driver behind, but not this time for car 62. Will they come into the pit lane? They're going to go for one more lap here. So one more lap of some exciting racing between Griffin and Parker. And we can see ahead, Collin hasn't come into the pit lane at all. So he's going for another lap. So he's running a strategy where he wants to follow what Mick Hill's doing up ahead. I have a feeling that's his plan. But it's not going to work because he's got no tyres whatsoever. So a very bold strategy for the Bundaberg Red Racer. He's the championship leader, reminding everyone with our viewers here tonight. He's still the championship leader. He doesn't need to take risks like this at all, because if he takes too many risks, he's going to only lose points to potentially not just Cooke, but to Mick Hill, who's leading the way.
Correct. It's such a brave call for Collin, but you're right. He's following the strategy that Hill is giving us a show on in front and in first position. But you can see the gap now. I mean, I'm not sure if Collin, well, he will be able to see him down the straight, but nonetheless, dead tire. He's still got fuel, but yeah, I think we saw last time the ideal strategy is to get through to the end of lap 15 on the soft tire. He's got to come in, surely, this lap. We're gonna keep an eye on. We've got a little bit of an onboard here, thanks to our broadcast team. But now he's in the 27.7s, and Griffin behind him is nearly in the rear mirror.
Understeer. Yeah, there he goes. He's turned right into the pit lane. So a very wise call there by Bundaberg Red Racing, and the boys behind him are really pushing on for one more lap there. They've still got a little bit of tread left. Actually, Griffin's actually gone for one more lap. Sean Parker's come into the pit lane, so he's going for an undercut strategy. Depending what tyre he goes on, if he's able to pull it off, he might be able to pull off an undercut and really get himself ahead of Tony Griffin. And he's actually got more fuel than Mitch Collin as well, so keep an eye on that as well. So that, again, so it could be some different strategies between the boys here, between Robert Sport Racing, Bundaberg, and Juiced Motorsports, but so far they're not able to close up on Mick Hill, who's leading the way for me, Cooke Drive Development. They are both on the hard tyres. So I just saw the telemetry come through. Mitch Collin and Sean Parker on the hard tyres behind Cooke, who came into that pit lane at the end of the first lap with some damage, but the cars ahead of them are really struggling on their tyre wear. So the drivers on the hard tyres might be able to get past these guys pretty quickly, but they do have to come back into the pit lane if some of the drivers are going to go for that one lap dash on hard tyres, or maybe they might have to change the strategies. Go plan B, go plan C, whatever the drivers in Bundaberg, whatever the team in Bundaberg are thinking about with Collin. We'll wait and see, but he's right behind the rear wing of his rival and second place man in the championship, Matt Cooke, in Diffusion Race Engineering. He's got a very good slipstream, very good tow on the Diffusion Race Engineering car 426, He's not going to think about a move yet. Kutscher has to brake a lot earlier, but so does Colin because he's on the hard compound. Wait to see those drivers ahead of him pull into the pit lane, but what does Colin do? Does he stay out? He is. He's going to go for another lap on the hard tyres. We'll wait and see how far he can go on these tyres. As we see also, Stephen Harrison potentially is going to be leading this race for the first time. Actually, no, things are changing around. We see Disposable Hero come out into the pit lane, out of the pit lane on the hard tyres, and everything just chops and changes here, George. I just can't keep up with it. I was predicting that the Cooke driver would try a different strategy compared to his teammate, but they are following orders at Cooke, and they are running more or less identical strategies yet again.
Yeah, good call probably at the end of the day. And yeah, lap 16, 17, it's just been chaotic for us in the commentary box as all the information on our screen starts to flip around all of a sudden. And I was about to say earlier, this is actually really good news being behind these soft running drivers initially, but it's starting to work against him now. He had the slipstream down the long back straight, couldn't get ahead of Kutscher, and now he's stuck behind Harrison as well. He's looking for a move now. Got a bit of overspeed there, so he'll probably get the position here. Harrison doesn't need to fight this if he doesn't. He's not racing Colin technically, but he's also not blue flag, so doesn't have to give up the position naturally. But yeah, we got to see now how many laps on the hard tyres will Colin stay out for? How many laps will Hill stay out for? If it's more than a few, then yeah, we could be looking at a very interesting situation. And Colin does decide to come in, so does Hill. So they're both going to switch now back onto the soft compound tyre and run to the end of the race. Now, I think one of the reasons why we saw Colin decide to stay out for an extra lap is he realized that he just doesn't have the tyre life on the soft tyres to get round the 15 laps that he needs to. And now he needs to make it at least another 14 laps after putting in a splash of fuel. But also Mick Hill is going to come out way ahead of him because he's got more fuel in the tank, an extra 13 litres, I believe. Look at this, they're all stacked up in the pit lane.
He's in the pit. He's about to exit the pit lane right now. Is Mick Hill, and Colin was still in his pit box, putting fuel in the car, and they haven't even changed the tyres. But now he's exiting the pit lane on 11 litres, 11% of fuel. That is a lot lower than what we've seen with some of the drivers ahead of him. But so far, we can see a few drivers right behind there, right up ahead, rather. We can see Stephen Harrison for CP Motorsports hasn't pitted at all, and he's on really dead tyres as well, on those soft tyres. Sean Parker's going for an extra lap in the RoboSport Racing engine, but he's got damage to his car. He must have made a huge mistake on the entry to turn 3 through the S's, and that is internal failure there with engine damage for Sean Parker. Man that was looking to potentially challenge Mitchell Colin for Bundaberg Red Racing has all gone to shambles for RoboSport Racing. Round 4 victor at Barcelona is going to be tumbling down the orders thick and fast. He's going to be coming in at the end of this lap. How much time will he lose? Where will he finish? We won't know. But the man that we do know that will be putting himself in a great position is Mick Hill in 3rd place. And I will say as well, Griffin has actually passed, not just Kutscher, he's actually passed Colin as well.
Wow, that is a huge change in the grid, and what a move there for Griffin. I wonder if he had just been saving his fuel a little bit more and reduced that time in the pit stop. And then with the extra hard lap on the hard tyres that Colin had to do, Griffin has just been able to make a leap here. So he's jumped ahead of Colin. He's under pressure now from Kutscher. There's contact.
Contact made. Oh, that's actually pushed Griffin onto the grass there. So contact between the Fusion and a couple of drivers behind there. And very unfortunate there for Griffin. He was looking on a very good trajectory on putting himself into overall P2 ahead of Colin. But that is definitely going to be looked at towards by the stewards there. He wasn't far up enough there. A bit of contact on the entry to turn 1 there, pushed Griffin onto the grass. He's trying to defend from Mitchell Colin, who's on the fresh compound of soft tyres. He's going to look for an outside move through to turn 6. Well respect there between the two championship contenders. But unfortunately, they're just a little bit ambitious on making a move on Griffin.
Yeah, he just pulled the trigger a little bit early on that one, sadly, and that has unfortunately potentially ruined his race. As I can hear the stewards clicking their pens already, and Griffo's not going to be happy with that at all, because that has let Ben Churchill through, and he's up in the 4th place, and he can go to the end. So now we've got Ben Churchill and Matt Kutscher all fighting essentially Mitch Collin for second position. Ben Churchill here could be looking at a podium finish. That would be, I think, his second of the year after a second place at Catalunya.
Yeah, these come from out of nowhere. He's roasted me in the comments, but he's definitely come through out of nowhere. He was down in 13th, 14th place before the first sequence of pit stops, and he's up into P4. Like you said, he's got fuel to the end. He's got tires to the end. He's got Kutscher in the way, who will definitely need to make a pit stop and will probably be taking a visit to the stewards room at the end of this stint, at the end of the race. And it's looking very, very tense between the battle for P2, because we can see Mick Hill has really pulled away. He's about to approach turn 7 right now, and he's really stretching that margin over these boys here. So the battle for position 2 is on between Mitch Collin, Matt Kutscher, and Ben Churchill are not far behind there, even though you got a little bit shoved wide there. Tony Griffin is not too far behind as well, and these boys are really going to be duking it out for the last few laps of this race. What
a fantastic development indeed, and I think a little correction there. I think Matt Kutscher can go to the end as well, given the tyres and fuel that he's got. So he's come out of nowhere as well and secured himself what is potentially a provisional P3 finish here at this race. But there's a long way to go. We've still got another, well, correct me if I'm wrong here, 11, 12 laps, I think. Oh, I can't do math on the fly. But the battle between Kutscher and Collin is starting to heat up. Collin, I don't know what happened there, but he lost out some time to Kutscher down the straight, the slipstream proving to be very, very powerful here in that 1.3 kilometer back straight. And will there be a move from Kutscher? We will stay on board and check this out, but Kutscher is looking very, very strong in the latter half of this race. Behind him, Ben Churchill, and behind him, unfortunate for Griffo, losing out in turn 1 on the previous lap, but he's going to be fighting back and seeing what he can do in the next 11 laps of this race. And actually another shout out here to Mad Rick, who's right in this battle.
Yeah, he was the driver that started on the hard tyres at the beginning of the race, ran a very long stint. He's on the softs, he's got fuel to the end, and he's brought himself right back up into contention here. So a very solid recovery drive there by Ricky Rick for Trackstars Racing. And my goodness, it is really starting to heat up there. As you did say, Kutscher can go to the end there, but we both know between Kutscher and Collin, they are not really great drivers on tyre management. So these drivers will both be suffering, and we're really trying to push their Audi TTs right on the limit and really try and extract their maximum pace that they can. But Ben Churchill right behind is a little bit better on tyres compared to the front two, and we'll be having to keep our eyes on the road stick racing driver and to making a charge for not only P3 but potentially P2, as Kutscher thinks about a move on Collin through 10A and exiting 10B. He loses ground on the Bundaberg driver, and it's going to get really spicy towards the end there. But I want to be keeping my eyes on the front two, on Collin and Kutscher on their tyre life, because from recent past they've been really struggling on tyre wear.
Correct. It looks like Collin so far is doing a slightly better job than Matt Kutscher in terms of his tyre life. Might have learnt a couple of lessons while he was following Hill in the first half of this race. But the Bundaberg Red Racing driver, he is under a lot of pressure right now from Matt Kutscher. And of course, he won't be unawares that there is another car very close behind, and Kutscher is very fast through those S's. He's really using the tyre life, despite the dirty air that he's got. Will he make a move into turn 7-8? Let's see. Oh, he moved out to the inside, and oh no, thinks better of it.
He's fanning a dummy there for Collin, but he knows it. Collin knows his tactics very well. That's why they're first and second in the championship, with Mick Hill right behind in third place. But Mick Hill looks to potentially be getting full points for the victory tonight, but we'll wait and see. We're only about 10.5 laps to go. Collin is still in second place. Kutscher right underneath that rear wing has got the slipstream advantage. He's going to pull to the inside line. Who's going to have the better brakes between the two drivers? Is they're still going to go side by side in through to 10A and then into 10B. Kutscher brakes later than Collin, makes that move stick. Well done there for Kutscher. He got a bad run there through 10B, and Collin's going back for the inside line on the exit of turn 11. Through the turn 12 as they go with 10 laps to go. Contact made between the two drivers there. Kutscher goes a bit of a half spin, almost takes out Churchill in the process. How Churchill managed to avoid that is unbelievable. Churchill's got a position free in P3, and now he's going to be charging towards the back end of Mitch Collin in P2. But that was some good intense racing there. But I will say for Cooke, it is very hard, and it is very hard to go around the outside on the final corner around this track.
Yeah, and I hate to say it for Colin, but that's the second incident he's been involved in turn one, and I do hear more clicking of the pens by the stewards. I'm sure there may be, well, I'm not sure, but there could be some protests happening post-race from both Cooke and Griffin, who now find themselves in 4th and 5th position after fighting for P2. They're very unlucky for both of those drivers. We know how fast they are. Those two will probably start fighting it out for the remaining positions, but still 9 laps to go. It's all going to come down to the last 2 or 3 laps of this race, because the tire life is what matters at Road Atlanta. How much grip will you have? We know that the lack of grip on these soft tires essentially turns them into hard tires, except that you're on an ice skating rink. So it's not fun for the drivers when you've got absolutely nothing on the front end to play with, especially through the areas like the S's at the start of the lap. And it looks like Ben here is doing a fantastic job maintaining his tire life, but so is Colin. So these two now in the battle to get P2, and they know that they're going to have Cooke and Griffo behind them as well. So very tricky for them.
Yeah, but some very good lap times there by Churchill in 3rd place. He's setting some good consistent lap. There's 1 minute 25 threes, probably compared to Colin, who had to go through a lot of battling over the last couple of laps there. So he's really closing in that gap. Is Churchill in 3rd place. So as we look down the order there, we can see a couple of standout drivers there as well. As you did say, Ricky Rick and Madrick in 6th place. A little bit further back behind Tony Griffin, but he's still keeping it steady, keeping it clean, keeping that car. He's got a huge gap over Greg Hamilton in 7th place for Mad Turtle Racing, making his return back to the Trak Racer TCR Cup. And then Stephen Harrison for CP Motorsports, who was leading a portion of the race, and as all the drivers were coming through to the pit lane, he's on the hard tires, so he's running to the end of this race. If you can hold 8th place on these tires, that'll be a fantastic drive by the CP driver. And in 9th place, SK Hoey in the privateer car 63, doing a really nice job there on the soft tires, running to the end as well. But right behind Sean Parker in 10th place there, where we could have seen him in all of the battling for P2, George, I will never know, but it's so unlucky for Sean Parker to be getting to that. He picked up engine damage a few laps ago on lap 18, and there's so hard. He got really so hard done by. I guess you could say we were a bit of robbed of some epic battles for the end of this stint.
Yeah, sad to say. Yeah, we would have had a 5-way battle, I think, for P2 in this race, and that's always a shame when we miss out on that kind of action. But they have to give it to Kingsley Hoey at the moment, running up there. I think it's the 82 car. I could be wrong. Let me double check what the number of his... The 63 car. There we go. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that. But yeah, Kingsley doing a very good job there in his car for... for I think considering where he qualified in the race, and now he gets to have a bit of a fun battle with Sean Parker, who, yeah, as we saw, was absolutely blazingly fast at the start of this race. But I'm just gutted for him. I mean, it's one of those things. This is part of the battle. It's not just about how fast you are; it's about how consistent you are, how much time you can stay on the tarmac as opposed to in a barrier. So very unfortunate for Sean, but a great little battle happening here between Kingsley and Sean. Great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll probably be getting him down here on this back straight here. Gets a nice exit out of turn 8, and it's going to tuck into that rear wing of car 63 to get P9 on lap 24 of 31. But as we round up the rest of the grid, we've got Hasseldine for Extreme Motorsports car 16 in 11th place there, and then in 12th place we have Mark Harris for being the substitute driver for ISA Esports in 12th place. Troy Britnell, who had a very strong start in the opening stint of this race, as high up as 5th place, and then unfortunately running wide through the S's and picking up some front splitter damage really ruined his race, unfortunately, and he's down in 13th place. And in 14th we have Karma Foster for Ned Racing car 666 in 14th, putting on a great show, doing a fantastic job, putting on a solid performance there for Net Racing in 14th place. So all 14 drivers still on track. Cars are still working. No engine failures. No engines going kaput on any of the drivers so far tonight. And we still have Mick Hill for Me Cougar leading the way, just like he did. He's putting on a clinic here, George. He's doing something similar to what Ando did in the opening race in Division 1, but he's also repeating what he did at Brands Hatch only a few rounds ago. He's just really driving this car to an absolute perfect rhythm that he's doing to himself really well. He hasn't put a foot wrong so far, barring the commentator's curse, but he's running a very similar strategy to what he's done at Brands Hatch, where he took a clean sweep of both pole position and victory.
Yeah, and why don't we just stay on board with him for a little bit more? In fact, I've heard we've got an onboard shot. And there we go, on board for a lap with Mick Hill, who's currently in the lead of this race with 5 or 6 laps to go remaining. He's coming up on a few back markers at the moment. The blue flags are being shown. But look how smooth the inputs are. This is, I think, part of the development program for the Cooke drivers. Picking up a little bit of a penalty there, so he'll be shaking his head and going, oh, whoops, that's not ideal. But it's not going to make a huge difference at this point. He's probably got at least 10 seconds on the car behind him in Collins. So, keep an eye on the inputs that he's got going into this car. The downshifts, the braking zones, it definitely makes a difference, and that's where the tire life, you can save tire life. He's going to be at the end of this race, and he's still going to have 20% tires, it looks like, on this car. So it's just very, very impressive from them, their training program, and the amount of effort and work that they're putting in. Not to say that the rest of the grid is not, because we do know that the team's engineers and drivers put a huge amount of effort into these races, and it's a hats off to all the drivers in Division 1 and Division 2 as well, that they are able to drive these cars with such skill. But yes, I mean, stand out for Mick Hill. It's just been absolutely excellent. And Colin here as well, of course, doing very well, but I think he burnt up those tires just a little bit too quickly at the beginning of the race, and I think we might find that he's in a similar area of trouble. Third place, Ben Churchill, starting to get a little bit closer to him now. So, I don't know, Nick, what do you think? Do you think Colin would be a little bit worried now? He's got the pressure on him.
He's got a little bit of pressure from Churchill. Churchill saved up a lot more tires, but let's go on board for Churchill. Let's see the comparisons between the two drivers as we go for a hot lap here around the Michelin Raceway here at Road Atlanta. So stick around, fellas and ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the coverage, enjoy the sights and sounds of car number 8 in Ben Churchill, chasing down Mitchell Collin, your championship leader. Absolutely incredible footage there. Churchill's closed up that gap so much on that last lap, George. He's really trying to maximize the tires that he has, those last little bit of tread that he's gone, really running the car, especially running the car right onto the curbing there at turn 1. I know drivers try to avoid that curbing because otherwise it sucks them into the grass, but Churchill's doing a fantastic job, and he's not giving up. He's only got about 4 laps to go to try and get this move done for P2. Again, trying to emulate what he did at Barcelona only 2 weeks ago, but he's so close to Mitch Collin, and he's so close to making that move.
Correct, yeah, it was great onboard shots there, and we got to have the pleasure of listening to the engine sounds. I'm sure that everyone heard it as well, just over the top of the hill towards turn 11 and 12. The lift that happens with these cars, they're pretty heavy cars, but they're also quite light, and we heard the engine just revs up, and you lose a bit of grip as you come across the top of that ridge there. Very tricky to control that, and of course it can actually affect tire life as well. So, but very impressive driving there on the onboard lap from Ben Churchill. Great stuff, and obviously great stuff from Collins as well in front of him. And I think, Nick, we need to talk a little bit about the tire life here, because we've seen such a disparity between, I'm not going to name a particular team, but a disparity between the tire saving of some drivers and the not lack of ability, but certainly the lesser ability, I should say, to save the tires. And I'm thinking here, Nick, that maybe it comes down to the inputs. Some obviously we have a bit of a disparity between the controller drivers and those of them that are on the wheel. But just looking at the onboard, comparing between Ben Churchill running a bit wide there, but just looking on the onboards as we did between Hill and Churchill, it looks like through maybe out of the corners, we've got a little bit more usage of the tires out of the corners to maintain the line that they're taking through the apex. I'm keen for your thoughts on this, because you've been involved in this kind of racing for a long time, and I think you might have an insight or two for us there.
I mean, if I could provide an insight, then I'd be called a master with tire saving on a controller. But unfortunately, it becomes very tricky. But no, to get to your point there, we can see there with what we've seen with Mick Hill. Really smooth inputs. Like, he's braking. He's not braking too hard on the car. So he's not really leaning that car forwards as the car is naturally supposed to be leaning forwards, just to maximize the brakes. As we see it now transitioning into the night phase, you can see the glow of the discs blowing on the front side, on the front end of the car. So it's really about, I guess, a couple of things. It could be about the brake pressure that they put on the car as well, the brakes that they put on the car, and how they can maximize not leaning on the car and in front of them, or leaning forwards on the car is one of the key elements. And as well, the second one, potentially, and most importantly, is how much of the track do you use? Do you use up a lot of the track? Do you just take a shallower entry just to save some tires? Do you really go for a full send? Do you just back off from the dirty air from the car ahead of you? We just don't know. Like, so many drivers have some different tactics on how they can maximize their true speed. And with some of the drivers here tonight, you can see they've saved so much tire life. Full credit to Mick Hill and Cooke driver development to really crack the code on the Audi TT's tire preservation. But we have to look at the drivers like both Mitch Collin, Ben Churchill, and even now, especially with Matt Kuchar. He's in 4th place, and we saw there as you were flicking through the cameras, he's got no tire whatsoever, and he's now coming right under pressure from Ricky Rick from Trak Stars Racing. Is underneath that rear wing. He's going to go for an outside move, potentially inside, going to 10A. No, going to go for the outside move on Matt Kuchar. Brakes later, and this is the most important thing I've been bringing about. He brakes at the normal pace, at the normal distance, but he's not able to make that move because Kuchar is really trying to maximize the tire life that he's got. But unfortunately for him, he's got nothing left, and these boys are going side by side. It is the final lap here with so much action going on here. Tony Griffin gets past Ricky Rick in for 5th place, and Madrick is really trying to, unfortunately, try to make a move on Kuchar. Couldn't make that happen, unfortunately. But now it's Griffin's turn to try and make a move there. But yeah, going back onto the inputs, it's really about just those fine precisions, steering inputs, braking distance, and especially, and saying the words of Ando, like listening to your tires, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a dark art, and those who master it, we can see the results out on track. And yeah, I mean, for myself as well, it's a very tricky thing to get used to and to get on top of. Like you said, many different ways to do it.
As we're about to see Mick Hill come across the line to greet the checkered flag, it's going to be another victory for the Cooke driver development team. Sorry to cut you off there, George, but it is Mick Hill for Cooke driver development taking the victory away yet again. That's a clean sweep of victories for Cooke tonight here at Road Atlanta. Awesome performance there. Mitch Collin just holds off Neon in Mick Hill, actually in Ben Churchill. But the boys here are not over yet. They're going to go side by side. Does Madrick hold it around the inside? Can Griffin hold it? Griffin holds it around the outside. He takes P4. What a fantastic battle that was there. Such close racing and great racing between those two drivers. Looked like Rick had the inside line, had P4 sealed. Griffin's like, hold my beverage, I'm going to go around the outside. And I hold that through. P4 for Tony Griffin, P5 for Rick. And unfortunately for Kuchar, finishing down in P6. And as we see a few the other drivers coming through, we have Hang on, I'm just trying to see, I'm trying to see who finished up ahead. But as we go through the results screen very shortly, there we'll find out who finished where. We see Easy Prey in Kingsley Hoey in 8th place, Hasseldine in 9th, Kutcher finishing down in 10th place here. So I wonder if something's going on here with Kutcher's side of things, because he's finishing down in 12th. There you go, he's dropped down to 11th. So something's happened here with Matt Kutcher finishing down at 11th. So what has happened here?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. He's dropped all the way to the back of the grid there, right at the end. I'm very unsure as to what's quite happened there, Nick. That's what we expected.
I've never seen that before. I've never actually seen him drop so far down. I have an idea of what potentially could have happened, but I just don't know. I can't make any assumptions up here in the commentary box unless I actually know the full detail. But the result is Mick Hill and Mee Cougar taking 2 victories tonight here at Road Atlanta. They dominated Brands Hatch, taking a clean sweep there, and now they've done the same here at Road Atlanta for round 5 of the Trak Racer TCR Cup. In 1st place, Mitch Collin just holds off Ben Churchill. In 3rd place, Tony Griffin with a brilliant outside move on Ricky Rick, just to steal P4 away from the track racing driver. In 5th place, Greg Hamilton. In 6th, Stephen Harrison and Hoey, 7th and 8th. Hasseldine and Karras rounding up the top 10. Karras doing a nice job there for ISA Esports. Troy Bricknell in 11th place. Sean Parker down in 12th place, where he was right up the pointy end of this race. Karma Foster in 13th, and Matt Kutcher 14th place, and 7 points next to his name there. That's going to be a huge blow to this Drivers' Championship.
That's absolutely right. And I'm hearing some rumors on the pit lane here that Matt Kutcher may not have run the hard tires during his stint, and that might be why he was dropped all the way down the back of the grid. It is worth a 1-minute penalty on the grid if you do not run the mandatory tires. I feel like I'm sure I saw Matt Kutcher on the hard tires at some point, but over a 45-minute race, it's sometimes a little bit difficult to remember exactly which cars we've seen here in the commentary box on the hard tires or not, especially when they seem to go on them for 1 lap and then toss them out. So that's potentially what it is for Matt Kutcher. I certainly didn't see him cross the line in 14th position, so I suspect that might be a bit more than a rumor. It might have been the facts on the grid. We will try and get that information for you to bring you an official report of that. Of course, we don't want to, as Nick said, provide you any false information here in the commentary box. But Nick, what a fight there for 4th position. Griffo. Just brilliant move. Griffo was actually overtaken by Ricky Rick and fell back to 6th position. But then Ricky Rick and Hamilton started to fight for that 4th place, and then a late switchback for Griffo, and finds himself in 4th position. So what a fantastic 3-way fight there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been some fantastic racing here all night long. Churchill almost got Collin. And we saw Churchill on that onboard was really closing in on Mitch Collin, but a couple of mistakes towards the end there, unfortunately for him. Really struggled to hold on to the back of the Bundaberg Red Racing driver. And then as well, you could see there with Griffin in 4th place. You know, that's a fantastic move. We saw Mitch Collin do something very similar on the opening round on Matt Kutcher at Daytona Road Course, where he went for an outside move, a great outside move there on Kutcher. And now we've seen something very similar happen with Griffin and Ricky Rick. And you know, Division 2 is really heating up here, and the driving is absolutely incredible amongst our field of drivers. But we are getting word from the race officials that the results and the team standings and the drivers' standings have been finalized, so we will be able to see who is actually finishing in what position. And it's still Mitch Collin, 1st place, finishing P2. But look, we see a change here. Mick Hill, 200 points, 30 clear of Matt Kutcher after that disastrous round for Matt Kutcher, unfortunately, finishing with only 7 points there. So 170 next to his name in 3rd place. That is the big story here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, that we're going to take away from this round. Mee Cougar really putting the fight for the back end of this championship, especially in Division 2. Mick Hill only 27 points behind Mitch Collin. Can he do it? Can he do what Ando's doing? Can he take the title charge to Mitch Collin for Bundaberg Red Racing?
Yeah, it's entirely possible. There's 2 more rounds still to go at the TCR Cup, so it's all to play for the top spot in Division 2. And I have to admit, Nick, this is a brilliant way to be ending the season with a lightning-fast Cooke driver development team chasing down Bundaberg Red Racing, who've had such an interesting season with driver changes, single drivers only in the team's championship, still pulling out some amazing results. And yeah, it's going to be a fantastic last couple of rounds to see. And as you said, the big news, of course, is Matt Kutscher, only 7 points, puts him right back in range of Ben Churchill, who has had a brilliant last couple of races. Catalonia, 2nd place. And here at Road Atlanta, he gets another podium. 3rd position for Ben Churchill, and now he's only 4 points behind Kutscher. It could be Ben Churchill versus Matt Kutscher for a podium position in the overall season here in Division 2.
Yeah, and we were speculating, we were very anticipated on both Colin and Kutscher bringing the fight to the championship, but now you bring Mick Hill into the fight, into this championship fight, is absolutely incredible. And you know, these guys are going to really be duking it out on the last rounds. But we're going to be going endurance racing next week, George. So 34 laps around Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. So we fly away from the United States yet again, and we're back in Europe. We're back at a driver's track, which is Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. 34 laps around that 7-kilometer circuit. And we are very excited to bring all the action here at MotorMotion E-Series and bringing you all the coverage for our Trak Racer TCR Cup. But again, I'm gonna have to put it on the floor for you here, George. Who is going to be your pick for driver of the day?
Oh, you beat me to it. You beat me to it once again there, Nick. I was about to throw it over to your side of things. But today, look, there's a couple of great performances. Obviously, Mick Hill has put on a fantastic charge to put himself up towards the top of the Drivers' Championship. Colin for holding on. We'll see if there's any reports from the stewards coming in later on after this round of racing. But I think Ben Churchill was the standout for me. He ran a clean race all the way through, all the way from 8th on the grid from qualifying. So 8th to 3rd position to take a podium today. I think for me personally, Nick, it's going to be Ben Churchill. But over to you for your thoughts on driver of the day too.
Yeah, no, that's a very good shout there. But I'm actually going to give mine to Tony Griffin in the Juiced Motorsports entry. He did a very good job there. Was running, and this is actually the first time we've actually seen Griffin run right up with the pack here in the pecking order of Division 2 in the TCR Cup. And it's been a great performance there by Griffin. And you know, I guess long story short, he had some great tire life. He had some great pace in him, really challenging the elite drivers ahead of him. But again, just to really put the cherry on the cake, that outside move on the last lap, on the last corner, pipping Ricky Rick for P4 in that race. And he definitely deserves my driver of the day. So 2 different driver of the days here. So the 2 boys might have to duke it out in the boxing ring to see who gets the overall driver of the day. We'll find out very shortly. Stay tuned for that.
Absolutely. And so we now take a look at the team's title, which is going to be one of the last little things that we talk about in our Division 1 and 2 coverage. So the results now are in for the team's title after round 5 at Road Atlanta. And as we expected, Cooke Driver Development running away with things, 472 points for them, but then the battle for 2nd and 3rd position starting to really heat up between Track Stars Racing on 295 points and CP Motorsports on 292. The endurance race that's coming up at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps is going to throw a spanner in these works. There is all to play for in these standings with 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. That's Rotic Racing, Mad Turtle Racing, Bundaberg Racing, Diffusion Race Engineering, all within 25 points of each other. So, Nick, this is really heating up. There's 2 races left in this season. The team's title is hot. We know that Division 1 is cooling down slightly and Division 2 is heating up even more. So what an exciting end of the season we're going to have.
I'm really looking forward to the end of this season. We know that Cooke's got one hand on the trophy for Division 1 and potentially a hand on the trophy for the team's title as well. But Mick Hill has thrown a spanner in the works here, ladies and gentlemen. He's come from out of nowhere, bringing in all the points for himself and for the team. And it definitely shows in the team's title that they are really extending that gap there. But yeah, like you said, second all the way through to 7th. It is not over yet. Only 50 points separate the 2nd to 7th place, and that is going to be fireworks over the next couple of weeks. We are very excited here at MotorMotion E-Series. So if you haven't already, please follow us on our Facebook pages at MotorMotion E-Series. Like and subscribe here at MotorMotion E-Series YouTube. Join our paddock pass. Join our paddock area where you will be meet some great drivers and some friendly faces. Join in for some of our exhibition races. Maybe you could potentially be driving on the grid here for the Trak Racer TCR Cup next season, or even as a substitute driver. You never know, but you're never going to find any of that information unless you visit us here at MotorMotion E-Series on Facebook, Instagram, and even on our YouTube page. And we also have a web page as well. It is www.motormotioneseries.wordpress.com.au.
Absolutely, and thank you to everyone in the grandstand today watching live on the YouTube channel. As Nick said, do give us a like and a follow on our socials. It is really, really appreciated, and your support from the grandstands is always appreciated, especially when me and Nick make a small faux pas, a small mistake in our commentary. Always nice to be corrected and get our information correct, of course. But for tonight, the Division 1 and 2 coverage is coming to an end for Round 4. Please join us on the 18th of July, 2023 for Round 6, the penultimate round of this TCR Trak Racer Cup for MotorMotion E-Series at Circuit de Spa. We're going to have a fantastic time out there in Belgium, so please make sure you join us in the 18th of July for when that goes live. But for now, it has been an absolute pleasure as always. Both Nick and myself, George, we have had an absolute blast in the commentary box here at Road Atlanta, and I think that's going to be our broadcast for today. So we're getting the knock on the door. Yep, the next championship is starting. I think it might be MotoGP here, actually. So good for them. I hope they all have a safe track experience around here at Road Atlanta. But from both me and Nick, we're going to sign out. And yeah, Nick, over to you for the final word.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in for Round 5 of the Trak Racer TCR Cup. Thank you to our sponsors at Trak Racer. Stay tuned in 2 weeks' time as we go endurance racing at Circuit de Spa Front Shop, and also tune in live and free on the MotorMotion E-Series YouTube channel. We'll be bringing you back the Player 1 GT3 Championship at a wet and soggy Autopolis International Racecourse in the hills of Japan. It's going to be a battle for strategy. It's going to be a battle for pride and victory. He will take out victory in the Player 1 GT3 Championship at a damp Autopolis. You'll find out live and free on the MotorMotion E-Series YouTube channel. But thanks to our viewers tonight, and thanks to you in the comments below for cheering us on and supporting us here at MotorMotion. Your support means so much to all of us here at MotorMotion, and without you guys, this would not have been possible. So thanks to the admin team, thanks to our commentator in George Cooke for providing the stream. Go like and go follow him on his Twitch channel at Crazy Good Kung Fu, live on Twitch every week. He's having a good old time there with his mates and also doing some racing himself. But for now, here at MotorMotion, thank you all for tuning in. We're going to sign off here because we are really going to get hassled. We are really going to be
banging on the door now.
Here. We're going to be they are pushing us for time, but it was just like, calm down, fellas. We'll get it all over and done with. But for now, and from all of us here, thank you so much. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for the Trak Racer TCR Cup. But we'll see you guys on Tuesday for the Player 1 GT3 Championship.